cats. It's time for Friday Night Live. I've got paw nerds to the left of me, whiskey to the right. It's gonna be it's gonna be an evening. It's been a week. How has your week been? Replay crew, love you. There will be timestamps down below when you are rewatching this. If you want to just jump to the thing that you want to see the most. We have so much to talk about tonight. We're going to do a quick weekly roundup. I've got a little bit that I personally very much want to talk about with an ongoing trial in the college admissions scandal because I have thoughts and feelings. Then we've got a Saltzy vague tweet. So we've got to do a Toddy Westbrook update with all of what I suspected that is about. We've got Alec Baldwin going to arbitration and blaming everyone but himself for the death of Helena Hutchins, including Helena Hutchins. And then we have Jussie Smollett's sentencing. Yes, I did listen to the whole thing. I streamed for most of it over on Nate the Lawyer's channel and then went to the book fair with one earbud in while tweeting at the book fair with my husband and G. It was fascinating. I'll share some of my own experiences with sentencing in court because I've seen a lot of people talk about how Jussie spoke up in court. It's really not the wildest thing I've seen by far. He was very respectful in the way he spoke up in court. It was for courtroom, like if you're going to call it an outburst because he spoke without the court addressing him directly. Well, the court did address him. He said any questions. It wasn't really a courtroom outburst. It was a courtroom statement. Not the wildest I've seen, and we'll talk about that. And then, of course, there is this new lawsuit filed by Gabby Petito's parents against Brian Laundrie's parents. So the Petitos versus the Laundries in a civil lawsuit, what that means, what I think. We're going to go through that lawsuit line by line and talk about what the difference is between criminal standards and civil standards and what the purpose of this lawsuit may or may not be. There's a lot of stuff here. So let me know where you're coming in from if you like and what you're drinking if you like. Most of the time, you know me. We just have the H2O. It's been a while since we've been like, your girl needs a drink, but listen. Let me know in the chat if you watched that sentencing hearing or watched the stream with the LawTube in Voice of Lawyers. Look. I'm going to give you all my thoughts. I'm going to roll the intro. I'm going to pull this and pour this while we go to the intro. I love seeing where you guys are all coming in from. Hello to the international crew. I've seen a lot of you. Yes, it is a rare George sighting in the back. I see you guys talking about George in the back. They are just the lawyers are the paw nerds are cuddled. They know that we need like a palate cleanser this week. And they're like, we're just going to cuddle in the back. They sleep like that all the time. They are very sweet brothers. So let's go to the intro and just get into it. There's so much tonight, y'all. There is so much. We're gonna just do the things. Oh, tonight's peanut butter cup whiskey is from a different brand than what I normally drink. I like this peanut butter cup whiskey already, Emily. Yep. Peanut butter cup whiskey. It has chocolate notes to it, where the one that I normally get from Old Smoky has vanilla notes to it. Tonight just felt like a peanut butter cup kind of an evening because it is. Hey there. If we haven't met yet, I'm Emily D. Baker, the badass lawyer and everyone's favorite legal commentator. I'm the host of The Emily Show, and I break down the legal shit behind the news and pop culture stories we all want to talk about. I have been a licensed attorney for over 15 years, but this is not legal advice. I should warn you, I'm a big fan of the cursey words. This channel is where the law nerds unite to talk about facts, not fuckery. Trisha Lynn, I don't know who in the LawTube community decided that the group of lawyers was going to be called an invoice of lawyers. I think I suggested a murder of lawyers. I think somebody suggested a billing of lawyers, but I think it was determined that what it would actually be is an invoice of lawyers, because why not? What else would you call it? Though, depending on who's on stream, it might also be a grift of lawyers. It's always nice to talk to the LawTube group. We all have different channels. We all have different vibes. We all have different opinions. We all see things and approach things differently. It's really nice to just be able to have a conversation, especially when sitting in on what I mean, I did the members only stream from like 11 to a little after 1, and then I hopped on Nate's stream probably at 1:15, 1:20. I literally got off of the members only stream, went to the bathroom, got new water, and then hopped onto Nate's stream, which was a problem because I didn't eat nearly enough yesterday. I do that sometimes. I realize that's an ADHD thing when you forget to eat, which is an oxymoron, but then sometimes we eat too much after we forget to eat for too long. It's a mess. But hopped on Nate's stream. My husband came in, like Dr. B came in at like 5:45 and was like, I was like, oh my God, we have to go. And so I think by the time the judge announced the sentence, it was almost 7 p.m. Central Time. They should have probably started that hearing at 9:30 a.m. The judge probably should have known what was coming based on what the defense attorneys filed, but we're not even there yet. So anyway, I think it's proper. The Law Tube crew, someone decided. I'm sure someone in the chat knows. Someone decided to call it an invoice, and I love it. I love it. And yes, that is both floofs on the chair, Spring Bumblebee. They are, I know, they are. They are. I need a little, I need a look. I need to take the inspiration from Simply Nailogical, Christine, and just have a paw nerd cam. I haven't quite figured out how to run that yet. I think I would have to mount it like right behind my head and just point it at them, or I could put it back there and just point it. We'll figure it out. We'll figure it out. We'll figure out a paw nerd cam at some point. We're professionals here. Like we'll figure out a 2-camera setup. I don't know. We'll figure it out somehow. International crew, it's good to see you. Tonight's probably going to be helpful because we're going to talk a lot about U.S. law. We're going to talk about sentencing. We're going to talk about all the things. This week has been very long, y'all. This week has been long. I am getting notes that the text crew text did not go out. So let me go double check it because I set it to send. And let's see if I got mine. Oh, I didn't get mine. It did not send. Interesting. I will go double check it. Thank you all for letting us know because we love the text crew. If you guys are wondering what the text crew is if not international yet, I'm sorry, but if you are in North America, you can sign up at textemily.com and then get text messages from me when things pop off, when I've posted something new, when we're about to go live. I do text people back. We send out birthday texts regularly, most of the time, but there are definitely times that I have missed those. I apologize as much as I can. I make no promises, but let me see what happened with that, and we will send it out right now as you all are coming in and saying hi. Also, while I'm talking about it, yeah, that didn't send out. That's so weird. We're gonna just send it again. So if everybody gets it twice, I apologize. But with that, I'm going to talk a little bit about the channel rules. YouTube, I have fuzz. I have my own fuzz on my lip. I don't know how hair got stuck in my lip gloss. I apologize. What I was going to say is Tuesday got a little off the reins, and I don't think it was law nerds. I think it was people trolling because of the topic, and that happens sometimes depending on the topic we cover. But YouTube now added the ability to pop up the chat rules so they're more clear. I've gotten feedback on that before from people saying, hey, the mods share, and our mods are amazing, you guys. Our mods are absolutely incredible. And I've had people say, hey, we're not really sure what the rules are in your chat because it's different than some of the other law tubers, and that's okay. It's just based on what works best for me. And so with that, YouTube now gave the ability to pop that up on screen. And so I was like, hey, I can go ahead and share the chat rules. And I was really happy about that. So with being able to go ahead and share the chat rules, I populated them so you can see them because yes, the mods reiterate them, but then I need to also be able to share those with people can't say. So with that, I populated those rules up so that you guys can see them. Again, I do think on Tuesday we had some that were not law nerds. People were very, very divided on the topic of Meghan Markle. And here's how I approach this. And as we get into quick bits, I'm going to tell you, because tonight's going to be one of those nights, y'all, that we are going to have to hang with not being able to yell about people and just being able to talk about the lawsuits. Because we've got some polarizing figures we're talking about tonight, some people that people don't like. and being able to talk about what the lawsuit is, what the law is and is not, versus the person that is either, suing or being sued. It is hard and it takes work to be able to parse it. Um, and that is quite a lot of information. And that is not something people are always ready for. And so I think we saw a lot of that showing on Tuesday, but we've got our reminder, we've got our law nerds, and we're ready to roll. It is difficult to parse the law from the people and the lawsuits from the people. We are talking about people that we don't all like tonight, people that have personality. Well, some of them have very similar personalities, actually, while we're talking about it. But I don't find it helpful to try to diagnose people in the chat, because it's like, oh, this person acts like this and this person's being this, because I think it degrades people who have struggles with mental health, who are neurodivergent. And I think it just says like, oh, well, if somebody's being this way, it must be because they're insert diagnosable illness here. And I think it really downplays those who have neurodivergence, who have different types of mental illness, who rise above it and don't act that way. And that's one of the reasons that is my thing. It's like when people who are not ADHD are like, oh my God, I'm so ADHD. It's like, no, don't, no, it shouldn't be kind of the footnote of a joke, right? It shouldn't be a punchline. And so it's one of the reasons I shut that down, because mental health isn't a punchline, but it's also not a catch-all for the way people act, which is why I'm more harsh when people want to diagnose somebody than I am when it's like, if somebody's being an asshole, we can say this is asshole behavior. So that's where I fall down with that, and that's why I do that, and that's where I stand on that, and that is what is in integrity for me. Just like I would never look at someone on Twitter and being like, "Oh, are you off your meds and having a temper tantrum?" It's not okay. It's not appropriate, and it puts down people who have mental health struggles, who rise above them, who deal with them, who get the support they need, who get the help that they need, and don't wild out or don't use that as an excuse, because it's also not an excuse for behavior. And there are some personality types here that are similar, and we can talk about people having a very large ego and a healthy opinion of themselves without needing to diagnose them with anything. So that is why I do that. I do get asked why I say not diagnosing people, because sometimes people are just being assholes, and we can say, this behavior is not my favorite, without saying, oh, somebody's acting this way or that way. Because again, maybe I'm more sensitive to it because I am neurodivergent. I have struggled with depression and mental health. I don't find it funny when people use those things as punchlines, or like, oh, even back in the day when people are like, oh, are you on your period? It's like, look, man, if I have emotional dysregulation, now is not the time to poke the bear at all. So that's where I land, and that's why the rules are the rules, because this chat is a very safe place for us to have conversations. We don't all have the same opinion. That is completely fine. I don't want us all to have the same opinion. I don't want us to be in an echo chamber. I want us to be respectful and able to talk about the law, and able to talk about the lawsuits, and then talk about the shade if there's shade, because sometimes there's shade and sometimes the shade's funny and we need to talk about it. So I'm going to keep going on. I appreciate you guys. I love you, law nerds. Just felt like I needed to clear the air after Tuesdays. Our mods were working. Look, they were beyond working 9 to 5. They were working all of the overtime that Kim Kardashian doesn't understand is what they were doing. They were doing all of the things. So you guys go on and chat about that in the chat. I appreciate you, law nerds. I should just run the weekly roundup. I am so excited. It's, I don't know. I had not been drinking much, just out of like choice and being sick and traveling, and I don't like to drink when I travel because I get puffy and it's like a whole thing. But it feels really nice to have a little bit of whiskey. Like, it's delicious. My cup's getting cold. Like, what is going on with this cup? It's getting chilly. It's getting chilly. It's getting little ice bits on the side. We're just ready. We're just ready. We've got Lawnards, Pawnards cuddled in the back, and I'm just gonna roll the intro. You guys are like, Emily, we're still talking. Emily just needed a little bit of a chat for a minute. So we did. Let's get to the weekly roundup. I'm going to start off with some shade. Here's why I'm starting with some shade. Our first story on the weekly roundup is the latest in the varsity blues college admission scandal trials. Why is there going to be shade? I'm just going to put it right out there. I don't like the person that's on trial at all. Nope, know them. Know their career, have met them on more than one occasion, know people that know them, don't love them, so there will be shade. There will be a little bit of shade. This is just where I'm coming from, y'all. Look. Jovan Vavic, the men's water polo coach, I believe at the time he was also the women's water polo coach for a while, of USC's water polo program, is an interesting dude, and I've not had pleasant interactions with him at all. My family's also a UCLA family. My brother played water polo at UCLA and won a national championship. He's much better than I am in a lot of ways. So much taller than I am. So I have thoughts when it comes to this particular coach based on my own personal experience. However, I also think what they did was shitty. I don't like anything about the college admissions scandal. Look, going to college was hard enough for me. Test taking was hard enough for me. Dyslexic, ADHD. It was a struggle. Water polo and going to college because I played water polo was the best option for me. The admission standards have a little bit of wiggle room when you are a Division I athlete. I don't know if they do this in non-Division I schools. I went to a Division I school. I don't know. And this is what was used in the college admissions scandal for parents like, I don't know, Becky from Full House, whose name is completely whoop right out of my brain. Chat will remind me with her daughter, the YouTuber. This family, by the way, tangent, should have just let their Olivia Jade be a water polo, or not a water polo player, be a YouTuber. She had deals with Sephora. She had brand deals with Amazon. She was doing well. She was doing well as a influencer. They should have just let her be influential and go to ASU and do what she wanted to do instead of forcing her to go to USC where she didn't even want to go to class. But when thank you very much, Trisha Lynn, Lori Laughlin, brain. When they used this admission loophole through this college admissions counselor who they paid hundreds of thousands of dollars, some of the parents paid this dude to bribe the schools to use the athletic exception to get students in, taking spots from, athletes. But look, it's not easy to get on to a Division I team. There is a lot of shit you don't get to do in high school when you were playing sports all the time. There's just shit you miss out on. And kids make that choice because that's what they want to do. Stop ranting. But you take the spots away from athletes who might otherwise need them. That said, there were plenty of people on my water polo team who were in every advanced placement class in the world, were very, very smart, got into Ivy League schools, and played water polo to boot. That was not me. I could barely keep it together. Also unmedicated. And for most of high school, undiagnosed. So with that, I personally find offense in the college admission scandal. I also find offense in the arrogance of being able to just buy whatever you want. There is this elitist mentality that is just sickening. And we know it happens, and you hear about it, and somebody donates a wing or a hospital or whatever it is. Oh, like Tom Girardi having a building named after him at Loyola Law School, like that. There's this level of entitlement that is just fucking appalling. If you have enough money, you can do whatever you want. Don't worry, Jussie Smollett, I'm coming for you this evening too. But with that, I think the college admission scandal just put it in all of our faces that it doesn't matter how hard a kid works whose parents aren't in the position to pay some strategist to allow their kid to have someone else take their SAT for them, or to get more time when they don't actually need the accommodation, or whatever level of cheating it was, up to bribing officials at the school. It just reminds us that there are multiple ways that privilege shows its head in the US, and the classist class divides of the uber wealthy and the rest of us are never more clear than during all of this. And so we were all well reminded that us little people should just sit down and not complain, because this is how the rich people do things, except that there was some AUSA somewhere who went, fuck this shit. This is illegal. Bribery's bribery, and you can't just get away with it. So let's talk about Jovan, who got arrested in Hawaii while he was there with his water polo team. And again, there was a dental. I'm not done with the college admission scandal. We'll get to this article about Jovan in just a minute. There was a dental professor at USC who also was wrapped up in the college admission scandal that my husband knew. And it was so funny because when this all went down, I went through the list of names. And here's why I went through the list of names. I was looking for people from my hometown because this felt like something that would happen in Manhattan Beach. Like, I felt like I was for sure going to see parents with kids that went to my high school or went to the private schools in the area that pulled from the South Bay. I was waiting for it. It was not there. I was shocked. But there was a dental professor from USC who was wrapped up in this list, not as someone who received bribes, but as someone that was someone that used this singer guy, the Svengali behind the whole thing, who sang on Everyone Like a Canary, but use this singer guy to get his kid into USC. The thing is, when you're a professor at a school or in a schooling system, there generally is some accommodation for your child. So what does it say that this person was a full ass employee at the school, was the head of one of their departments at the dental school, and still thought that they needed to cheat to get their kid into USC? And if you're that kid, does it make you feel like, oh, my parents have absolutely no faith in my own abilities at all? Like, my parents don't think I can get there without cheating. Like, what does that do to the kids? Anyway, we were kind of floored to see the names on this list because you've already got an advantage. What more advantage do you need? Oh, let's just throw some more money at it. Sure. Cool. Let's just, I have nothing against people with money. I have a lot against the entitlement that some people with money have. So let's share the screen. We're going to go to Law 360. Thank you, Law 360, for this incredible article about Jovan starting trial, why he decided to go to trial. Look, if this man testifies, this man is deeply unlikable when he talks. If this man testifies, it is just going to be over, because he's going to yell at the jury. He's going to be like, you don't understand. You don't understand. I didn't make enough money in my, hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars that I was making a year. But all right, let's go on. Jurors in the Varsity Blues trial of former USC water polo coach heard testimony Friday that he convinced another coach to join the admission scheme despite reservations about lying to school officials. Officially saying, fuck them, just do it. That tracks. Former USC women's soccer coach Alec Baldwin, I think that's how I pronounce that. Allie, I don't want to mispronounce your last name. You did the right thing, Allie. You said, I don't think we should do this. And you listened to Jovan. Maybe it's because he has a very bullying demeanor. I don't know. But it ruined your career too. That sure sucks. Former USC women's soccer coach took the stand as prosecutors' first witness in the Boston federal court trial of Jovan Vavic, longtime head coach of you, longtime head coach, long time head coach of USC's powerhouse water polo program, charged with accepting bribes from William Rick Singer to falsely designate the child of wealthy parents as water polo recruits. Water polo's fucking hard, y'all. It's hard. Korosian pled guilty to racketeering conspiracy soon after his 2019 arrest in the bombshell Operation Varsity Blues probe. I hate it when they call it a probe. Admitting that Singer paid him hundreds of thousands of dollars to submit fake admissions files for players who weren't up to USC's standards. The former soccer coach testified Friday. Well, this is why he took a deal. He took a deal so he could testify against Jovan. Singer, by the way, the guy who got popped in all of this, the kind of ringleader who was paying out bribes and arranging for private tests. The second this guy got arrested, he's like, let me tell you everything. Yeah. Don't expect homies to keep your secrets, by the way. Especially in the white collar cases. Gang cases are different. There's a little bit more honor amongst everyone there. Or fear. In the white collar cases, everybody turns on everybody, which is why I said at the beginning of the Jen Shaw case, Stu is going to immediately flip on her and testify against her. White collar cases, there is no one is holding back on the secrets. Let's see. The former soccer coach testified Friday that he spoke with Vavik soon after Singer invited him to join the scheme in 2009. Korosian said Vavik, I'm just calling him Jovan. Korosian said Jovan was already involved in the plot by then, and the water polo coach encouraged him to put aside his hesitation about duping USC's admissions committee. I'm sure he held them in high esteem. What? He said, fuck them, just do it. Tell them that they're the best players they've ever seen. Korosian relayed on direct examination. Korosian said reading's hard. His decision to accept Singer's invitation was directly tied to that conversation with Vavik, a highly successful water polo coach who led USC's water polo team to 16 NCAA championships. I need to look up how many UCLA has right after we finish this because I'm curious. Korosian, in contrast, was ultimately fired in 2013 after a long losing streak for the women's soccer team. Oh, so not in connection with this. Interesting. I thought that if Jovan was doing it, then why shouldn't I? Korosian said. I looked up to Jovan and I wanted to be as successful as he was. Look, Jovan had very successful I will say, USC water polo is kind of unparalleled. They had very, very good athletes. Some of their women's athletes were some of the tallest women I have ever played water polo with against in my life. He recruited internationally. He was on another level, even in the 90s when I was in college, because I'm old AF. They have a very good reputation and a good program, even though as a coach, he's not exactly the guy you would want to be like. Which is something I look for in coaches with my kids. It's like, is this somebody you would aspire to be like, or do they just want to win at all costs? I need to look up UCLA. I'm curious. They've had a lot of winning streaks too. Let's see. I need their history. Can you just give me how many wins they've had? Do they have a Wikipedia page? Why is this information hard to find? Mm, let's see. Current championships. No, that's Berkeley. I don't want to know about Berkeley. I will withhold what I have to say about Berkeley. Why is this so hard? Oh, there is a Wikipedia. Hold on. Is it going to make me count? Damn it. Why can't it just tell me? Oh, wait, here we go. According to Wikipedia. University of California, Berkeley is the most successful program with 15 titles, followed by UCLA with 12, Stanford with 11, and USC with 10. This must be outdated. Let's see. This is as of like 2014. So that is outdated and has changed some, but Berkeley was leading the pack. Oh, and it's got every game ever listed. Fantastic. But the first one went to, let's see. Of course, it was at Belmont. Went to UCLA. They won the first NC2A championship. Okay, that's more than anyone wants to know. Before I digress any more about water polo, which might happen, Berkeley does have a good program. Anyway. My brother's coach from UCLA is now the women's Olympic water polo coach. It's a very small world in water polo, especially in California. I will stop talking about that. Okay, let's see. I thought if Jovan was doing it, why shouldn't I? I wonder how much money Jovan pocketed as a part of this. It's got to be millions of dollars. That's a pure assumption. I wonder if it was in the articles back in the day. I'll have to look now that he's on trial. During the lengthy cross-examination, Vavek's counsel asked about Korosian's motivations for pleading guilty and testifying. Um, let's see. The attorney pointed out that he might receive a lesser prison sentence after cooperating. Be honest. Let's be honest about the prison sentence that these people actually received. They've all been very, very low. They've been very insubstantial prison sentence. But in the world of white collar crime, these are not the worst white collar crimes you've ever seen. These are crimes of entitlement and opportunity. These are not, telemarketing fraud schemes perpetrated on people over the age of 65 for 12 years. Let's see. The U.S. attorney is going to weigh your cooperation, including everything you said today, in terms of its value to the prosecution and not just your truthfulness, right? That's actually not correct. They weigh it based on truthfulness. Korosian replied that he pled guilty to take responsibility for what I did and set a good example for my daughter. Oh my God. That would have been a great moment in court. If the defense is trying to slam the witness and being like, well, you took this deal because you're going to get a lighter sentence. And that's the only reason you're saying this. And this is all bullshit, isn't it? It's like, no, I wanted to take responsibility for my actions and set a good example for my daughter is the kind of answer that like takes the air out of the room. And the jurors are all like, oh, well, okay. The defense attorney also questioned Korosian about the fundraising culture at USC, echoing her co-counsel's suggestion that during opening arguments Thursday that the university actually encouraged coaches to recruit athletes in exchange for donations. Of course they did. It's USC. You can see how I feel about it. We're a UCLA family. I'm just going to be honest. Anyway, I had a friend get stabbed in the USC parking lot. And UCLA has cookies. Like that's, we'll continue on. There's also a lot of roaches in the housing at USC. I'm done now, I swear. If you are from out of California and you send your kid to USC and it's this prestigious, bright and shining pinnacle of education, and then you actually go to USC and go into the housing and you're like, oh my God, there's roaches. It might be better now. Again, it was the 90s. It's been a long time since I've been in a dorm room. All right. The defense lawyer referenced an interview with prosecutors in which Korosian purportedly claimed a top administrator had encouraged him with a wink and a nod to enter into quid pro quo deals with wealthy parents, which is so gross, but also feels about right. But Korosian encountered, they had football scandals too with Reggie Bush with this kind of shit. Felix Black says, like, I'm watching this from my dorm room. I wish YouTube existed when I was in college. No, I don't. I would have gotten nothing done. I never would have graduated. Let's see. There was a wink and a nod, but it had nothing to do with the selling of spots, the former coach said. That was a reference to the watches. It wasn't a reference to the selling of spots. He said, no quid pro quo. What watches? Oh, Korosian countered with the suggestion that the suggestion referred not to soliciting application donors, but to accepting Rolex watches as gifts from boosters. Can you imagine the expectation if your kid's sports coach in college expects a watch? Like, we had to sit through all the NC2A, what you weren't allowed to receive. And it was like sketchy about whether your parents could take your teammates out for dinner or not, because it might be seen as like some kind of improper donation when you're an NC2A athlete. And the coaches are like, oh no, we fully expect Rolexes. Cool. Vavek's trial started in the U.S. District before U.S. District Judge Tawani, not Trelawney. I'm always going to say it wrong in my brain because I am a nerd. Tawani. In the second of the sprawling Varsity Blues cases, which has ensnared 57 coaches, parents, and administrators, prosecutors prevailed at the first trial in October, scoring convictions for parents John Wilson and Gamal Abdelaziz. Most of the other defendants in the case had pled guilty, as happens in most federal criminal prosecutions. In addition to Korosian, the list includes former USC staffers like ex-assistant women's soccer coach Laura Jank, and erstwhile athletics administrator Donna Heinel. The government is represented by Leslie Wright, Stephen Frank, and Ian Stearns of the U.S. Attorney's Office. And that's the end of that. So Yo Von's going to trial. I hope he's convicted. I hope he's convicted. Catherine, there were sanctions back in the day. There were sanctions against USC, some pretty severe football sanctions against USC. Why there weren't sanctions for all of this? Probably, well, the Rolex is if the coaches are receiving it, then there wouldn't be sanctions. If there's donations to the school, then there wouldn't be sanctions. If you buy your kid if you buy the school a library, Dr. Dre, and they happen to get in, it's not really a quid pro quo. It's like oh, isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? Isn't that nice? So for those of you not familiar, USC, sorry, international crew, USC is the University of Southern California. It's a private California in Los Angeles, South Los Angeles. And UCLA is a public school, the University of California, Los Angeles. The University of California system is a system that has multiple locations of public universities like UC Berkeley, UC Davis, UC Santa Barbara. There of UC San Diego. There's a variety of different UC schools. And then California also has the Cal State system, which has other schools like the illustrious Cal State Long Beach, Go Beach, and others. So UCLA is in Westwood, closer to like Beverly Hills, Brentwood, that area. So if you've never, LA is sprawling and has lots of universities. So that is a rundown of USC and its football coach who's on trial. Weird. Don't take bribes. It seems wrong. If it seems wrong when you're getting paid to lie, it's because it's wrong to get paid to lie. I'm just saying. Fun fact though, when my teeth are moving because of my Invisalign and things are getting a little lost in pronunciation. I apologize. When Reese Witherspoon was researching Legally Blonde, not only did she spend some time downtown at the LADA's office, going to court and things like that, but she also spent time at sororities at both USC and UCLA to kind of get into the method of playing a kind of Southern California sorority girl. And the little the Tiffany bracelet that she wore in that movie was kind of the iconic thing that at that time you would commonly see in sorority girls in those universities. I was in college when that happened. So when you want to talk about the college culture of when Legally Blonde came out, I was getting ready to apply to law school when that movie came out. So anyway, what are you doing, Fred? Oh, he's coming up here is what he's going to do. We're going to see him in a second. We need to get to our next story. Are you guys ready to do a quick Westbrook roundup? I should swoop. I'm going to swoop and then I got to open Twitter because I didn't do that yet because we're professionals. Because we're having a chit chat kind of a stream. Look, this week's been heavy. I sat in a hearing that was not my own for so many hours yesterday that my brain stopped working, like willfully stopped working. We got home from the book fair and I swear I had blacked out how much, like I had just completely, I kept saying yes to things. Griffin's like this. And I'm like, yes. And we got home with a stack of books. There are worse things, right? There are worse things. So let me go to my profile because I know I retweeted it. And pull up this tweet from Michael Saltz ESQ that says, congratulations at Glam Life Guru Toddy Westbrook and James Westbrook on another major court victory. Looking forward to winning a few more in the near future. I looked at all of the cases because I was like, what did I miss? I looked at all the cases. I figured out which one this was referring to based on the recent court filings. But I think that this is a dig at Clark Swanson because the only person that I have seen that they have a few more lawsuits against is Clark Swanson. So I think this is hey, all I gotta do is win, 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 no matter what. I think that's where we're at with this tweet. I think that's exactly what it's indicating, that we're just going to keep winning. And just if you're watching my Twitter, which we know Swanson watches the Twitters and the videos and the things, that this is kind of shot across the bow, if you will. Do you guys want to know exactly what court case this was? Let's do a quick little roundup of where we're at with the Westbrook litigation. I came into the Westbrook litigation way back in October 2020? Is it 2022? October 2020, when Clark Swanson sued the Westbrooks in LA with "This is a lawsuit because of the defendant's greed," and threw all of the shade and allegations into that lawsuit. Shortly thereafter, Tati Westbrook, her companies, sued YouTuber KJ for defamation. That case was dismissed on jurisdiction, and instead of refiling it in Minnesota, it seems that the parties settled based on statements publicly released. Then the lawsuit in California got dismissed for form nonconvenience. It got yeeted out of California. There are still two lawsuits going on. One in Nevada, one in Washington. I think eventually they will all probably end up in Nevada, but we will see what the litigants choose to do. Clark sued the Westbrooks in Washington for defaming him and his good reputation. Big reputation? His reputation? So he sued them. They are countersuing him for claims. I've broken all of those down on the channel. The Nevada case is the case that involves the business dealings and Clark Swanson allegedly giving information to KJ as a source that was then sharing that information on the internet that damaged the company that he owed a fiduciary responsibility to. And the case from LA is going to get refiled. I think it got refiled in Washington, but I need to double check. The case in LA is going to get refiled in one of those two courts. So it'll be an amended complaint into one of those two filings. But there was another case. If you were familiar with the Tati Westbrook defamation case, that case alleged that YouTuber KJ said a bunch of defamatory shit about Tati Westbrook. It alleged that she made statements that were false. We went through that suit. One of the statements was about Clark Swanson being a fraud. It was allegedly based on court documents. However, once that started coming up in the Washington defamation suit, it was clear that they were still litigating that suit. So Westbrook had never been determined to be a fraud because there was a odd default judgment. So what's going on in that case? The LA case with James Westbrook that was used against him to, I think, improperly allege something about his character. And allege that he was fraudulent, was a case that hadn't been served on him, it seems. So once the case came up and was referred to in the Washington case, I looked at it then, we talked about it a little bit then, and it seemed that Saltz took up that case, and litigation in that case in LA resumed, and they made a motion based on the fact that Westbrook had never been served. It's the only non-Swanson case here. Westbrook had never been served in that case. And it wasn't like an oopsie, they were never served. It seemed like they were never served and we tried to get this default judgment and hush, hush. So they were able to get the matter dismissed because it had not been properly served. And they have been litigating that dismissal of the case. The defense in that case made a motion to overturn the dismissal because the case had not been litigated and the case had not been properly served. The defense civil case, switch gears. The plaintiff in that case, this guy named Hawks, had made motions to overturn that ruling by the court when they dismissed the case. That went to hearing in February, and there was a ruling on that March 10th, which was yesterday. So, oh my God, Fred, he jumps up on my desk, fluffs hair everywhere, and then runs away. Thanks, Fred. Love you, boo. Love you. Mean it. All right. So yesterday, March 10th, nature of proceedings, ruling on submitted matter. The court having taken the matter under submission on 2/1. That's a long time for the court to consider a matter. Taking it under submission means I gotta think about it. Let me think on it. Took this matter under submission on February 1st, 2022, on a hearing on motion to set aside or vacate the dismissal to make sure you can't to undo it so litigation can continue. Plaintiff Hawks's motion for relief from dismissal is denied. The motion to set aside vacate dismissal filed is denied. So that's a pretty big win in court because that case is done. And when you look at big court wins, getting a case that never got properly served, that you were actually besmirched over, getting that entire case thrown out is a big win. So I can understand the tweet. That's what the tweet is about. That is a big win in court. And I'm going to look at what the results of our poll was from stories you are looking forward to. So let's see, 47% of you said Petito, 20% of you said Saltzy vague tweet. Well, 20% of you, there you go. Saltzy vague tweet is regarding this case being dismissed and is done. The Baldwin case, Smollett, Baldwin 17, Smollett 14. So I think that means we go to Smollett next. So it is time to swoop. And no, I have Baldwin up next in my notes. Maybe we'll just do Baldwin up next. Y'all, if you have not liked the video, subscribe to the channel, please just go ahead and do it. We're very close to 200,000. And I sure would appreciate your support. So go ahead and subscribe. There's over 3,000 of us on here. All of you can't be subscribed. And if you are, thank you. So let us go to Baldwin. This article comes from the New York Times because they are the ones who reviewed the legal documents, and we are going to go through what they have said about it and what that means. Because Baldwin, look, here's the thing. I cannot like it. There is a legal reason why this is being done. Even when I don't like it, we are going to talk about the legal reasons this is being done. I don't know if this move had to be made now. I don't know if they had more time to make this. I suspect that they did. But we're going to talk about the implication of this because I've really not seen it broken down in a ton of the articles about what this means, why there's an arbitration demand, what is even arbitration anyway, why it's relevant in the context of all of the other suits, and why this is coming on the heels of this wrongful death suit. Baldwin in the Rust shooting, for those of you that aren't familiar with the story, Baldwin was an actor-producer on the film set of Rust in New Mexico. He was manipulating a gun. He says he didn't pull the trigger. We'll see what happens in the investigation. He was holding the gun when it went off, killing cinematographer Halyna Hutchins and injuring director Joel Souza. After that, there is an ongoing criminal investigation that has not been completed yet. Baldwin has given a number of interviews and made public statements. I've reviewed them on the channel. If you want to go look for the Baldwin playlist or the Rust playlist, cat hair, apologies. Then there was a lawsuit from the script supervisor, Mamie Mitchell. There's a lawsuit from the gaffer. There is a lawsuit from Halyna Hutchins' husband for wrongful death. And there is a lawsuit between the armorer and the prop house. So there that Baldwin is also, I think is also named in as a producer. So that is the lawsuit landscape that we're getting to when we come up on this arbitration demand that is going on. So in an arbitration demand against his fellow producers on the film, he denied culpability in the killing of cinematographer and said he should not be held financially responsible. As I said on Twitter, I think this gives more context to what is going on when Baldwin made the comments that he did, that the people who might have the money aren't legally liable at that film festival in Boulder was that even a week ago? I don't know. We talked about it Tuesday. I've lived 100 years since then. I don't know what happened. So, I don't want to see the newsletter. Alec Baldwin gave his most detailed account yet of the fatally shooting a cinematographer Halyna Hutchins on the film set Rust last year in an arbitration demand that his lawyers filed Friday against his fellow producers, claiming that his contract protected him from financial responsibility in her death and seeking coverage of his legal fees. This is what's happening. Here's what that means. His contract on the film has an arbitration provision. We talked about this a lot in the lawsuit with Scarlett Johansson and Disney, because Scarlett Johansson filed a lawsuit against Disney for the way they released Black Widow. And Disney was like, yo, bro, there's an arbitration clause here. Yeet this out of state court. You got to go to arbitration. There's an arbitration clause. I think that's what Baldwin's doing here. I imagine that the contract has an arbitration clause. And so he said, do not pass go, do not collect $200, go directly to arbitration, which at least he's following the rules. I mean, didn't follow basic principles of gun safety, but he's following the rules and going to arbitration. What he is seeking has happened in other cases and is probably going to happen in the Astroworld case as well. He is seeking protection. He is seeking a ruling that he is not responsible, that the other producers are responsible, and they have to cover him, cover his legal fees while he goes through this, because he is being sued in his role as a producer, not just as an individual. I'm sure they are going to try to split this and say, look, we don't want any part of this. It's going to happen with the insurance companies, I'm sure, in the Astroworld cases too, where the insurance companies are going to be like, we're not covering all of this. Like, this is not our fault. This is stuff that you did. This is not us. And we've seen this in other cases where there have been arbitration rulings about whether there would be insurance coverage while the ongoing litigation was happening over here. Like, what's the insurance coverage going to be happening over here? So with that, he is seeking to be covered by the other producers based on his contract, which means there's probably an indemnity clause somewhere in that contract. I have not seen these court documents yet. This is filed in Jam's arbitration, not in court. So I have not seen this yet, but I'm imagining there was an indemnity clause at some way, and that the others are going to argue that he intentionally manipulated the gun, or that he negligently pointed the gun at her, and therefore they're not required to cover all of his liability and his lawyer's fees. But we will see. This is legally proper. This is legally. It feels icky. We don't like it. Like, we hate this. But he is not legally wrong to make this demand. It just feels gross. Legality and morality are not always the same. All right, let us go. Ooh, we're gonna need some more. We'll pour some more when we get to Jussie. They say that Baldwin is named in several lawsuits. We know. The filing said he was not responsible for her death since he had been assured that the gun did not contain any live ammunition, and because he was not responsible for checking the ammunition for the firearm or for firearm safety on set, which is what he said in the interview with Stephanopoulos. The filing provided new details of Baldwin's role as a producer on Rust. Some former crew members, it says, claimed in lawsuits. Sorry, I missed a word and I wasn't sure where it was. The filing provided new details of Mr. Baldwin's role as a producer of Rust, a production some former crew members claimed in lawsuits had sacrificed safety by cost cuttings. I only have one issue with that. The direct line about sacrificing safety by cost cutting came from the wrongful death lawsuit, though it is alluded to in the two other lawsuits by the script supervisor, Mamie Mitchell, and from the grip, not the grip, the gaffer. While Mr. Baldwin was involved in creative matters, the filing said others had authority over hiring and budgets. Baldwin was to be paid $250,000 to star in the movie and act as producer, it said, but he gave back $100,000 as an investment in the film. Okay. That doesn't change your behavior, though. And the filing contained text messages. This will be interesting to see. I will try to get my hands on the filing and break it down for you. The filing contained text messages that Baldwin had exchanged with Matthew Hutchins. This feels gross to me. There might be a legal purpose for it, but it feels gross for me. Baldwin exchanged text messages with Matthew Hutchins, Helena Hutchins. Oh, they go on to say it. I don't need no exposition needed. The widower of the slain cinematographer, which showed how their relationship deteriorated over time from mutual expressions of condolence and support in the immediate aftermath of the shooting to the pointed wrongful death lawsuit Hutchins filed against Mr. Baldwin this year. like last month. It provided a vivid account of the fatal shooting on the New Mexico film set, which took place after lunch as Baldwin rehearsed the scene inside a church in which his character is cornered and draws his gun. Rust's Colt cocked quietly now. The filing quotes the direction in the script as his pursuers approach. Then shortly after that, Colt exploding. However, I want to see this filing because in the other filings, it said they were not rehearsing this part, that there was nothing in the script that called for him to cock the gun in the part that they were blocking out. I just wonder if this comes following the part that they were blocking out, or if this is being relayed differently based on who's filing the lawsuit, because the script supervisor suit said that he was never, ever, he wasn't scripted to manipulate the gun in any way during that blocking. Oh, let's see. This part I really hate. So just like everybody hold on, just whoop, buckle up. Hutchins told Baldwin how to position the gun, the filing said, and he talks about this in the Stephanopoulos interview, but he goes more in depth here. He's just going in on this. On this, he will not relinquish this point. Quote, she directed Baldwin to hold the gun higher to point where it was directed towards her, it said. She was looking carefully at the monitor and then at Baldwin and then back again as she gave these instructions. In giving and following these instructions, Hutchin and Baldwin shared a core vital belief that the gun was cold and contained no live rounds. Look, the positioning here that he is a victim like her does not sit well with me, and I do not like it. I understand that his lawyers are doing this for his benefit, and that is their job, but I do not like it. It is still his job to not point a weapon, a full-ass revolver, at a human. Don't point a gun at a person and we don't end up here. Even if it's loaded, if you don't point it at a person, we don't end up here. Also, there are precautions when it's just the camera and the people behind the camera aren't there. I've talked about it in his interview. If you want to see how I feel about it, I talk about it in Baldwin's interview with Stephanopoulos, because he says basically this. Baldwin then asked Hutchins if she wanted him to pull back the hammer as the script instructed, and she said yes, the filing said. Baldwin then pulled back the hammer, but not far enough to actually cock the gun, it said. When Baldwin let go of the hammer, the gun went off. It went on to describe the confusion and horror after the shooting as Hutchins was flown by helicopter to the hospital. By the way, Baldwin is the only one that talks about his role in this. All of the other lawsuits say that he was not involved during the time after she was shot. Everyone else was there at her side and Baldwin was not. It was later at the end of his interview with Santa Fe County Sheriff's Office that Baldwin was shown a photograph of the projectile that had passed through Hutchins and then wounded the film's director, the filing said. Baldwin recognized the object as a live bullet, and he finally began to comprehend what had transpired on the set of I hate this so much I can't even say it. On the set of Rust that day, he was shocked. I don't buy this. This is my personal opinion. I don't buy this part. He has made this claim multiple times. Here's where I'm coming from on it. When guns fire live rounds, they are loud. If the gun was completely empty and it had gone off, it would not have made that type of sound. The other lawsuits detail how loud it was. Everyone was in very close proximity to each other, which is how the bullet passed through one to another and had the power to do so because of how close they were together. And everyone described how ear-splittingly loud it was because no one had ear protection on, because there were not supposed to be any bullets or anything in the gun. So I do not believe that he did not perceive that when the gun went off, something wasn't wrong. I do not believe for a minute, no matter how many times it said, that he did not have an inkling that something was wrong when the gun went off. It would have been loud and it would have kicked. Here's the thing. In his interview with Stephanopoulos and in other filings, he talks about the fact that when he did weapons training with the armorer. The armorer was instructing him how to fake the kickback when there was inert rounds in it. So when it is inert and you shoot it, you have to make the gun move itself. I am not an expert shot in it. I am much better with bows and arrows, but you have to make the gun kick itself. It's not going to kick up. I do this. I obviously know that's not what I mean, but it's not going to kick up if it's inert. So the actor has to provide that motion. He talks about it in his interviews and then goes on to say, "Man, I didn't know when it went off that it had a bullet in it. It it would have been loud, it would have kicked." I don't believe any of this. I don't know if he has mentally distanced himself so much from this as a protection mechanism that he actually cannot remember and is believing his own story, or if he's just fucking lying. I don't know. I don't know, but I don't buy this at all. Between the noise and the kick, he should have been aware that the gun wasn't empty. Sure fucking wasn't. We're just gonna be like this tonight. We're just gonna be like this tonight. You guys, we're just gonna be like this tonight. And again, he might have. I don't doubt this part. I don't doubt he was shocked. I don't doubt that. I don't doubt that. I don't think he loaded this gun. I don't think he anticipated it. I don't think that he knew that this would fire, but I don't believe that he had no perception that this is what happened based on the noise and based on the kickback. I do believe he was probably shocked. That I do believe because something firing in your hand when you don't expect it to would be shocking. So that's my own opinion based on this. I've not been through a traumatic event like this. Maybe it's the way he processed it. I don't know. I just don't buy it. All right. In the filing, Baldwin's lawyer um, says a clause Mr. Baldwin and his company had signed in the contract. Oh, okay. There's an indemnity clause. Baldwin and his company had signed in the agreement with Rust Movies means he bears no financial responsibility for legal fees or claims arising out of a death. It would be interesting to see the wording of that indemnity clause, but I wonder if that protects him as a producer. Here's my lawyer questions. I wonder if that protects him as a producer, but it might not protect him as an actor. I'm not sure if this protects him both ways. I don't know if this contract, again, I have not seen this filing. I don't know if this contract is for Baldwin producer, Baldwin actor, or both. So there's a question there for me that hopefully will be answered either later in this article, keep reading, or at another time. Let's see. In the filing, Baldwin's lawyer says a clause Mr. Baldwin and his company had signed with his contract. Well, if his company signed it, that might be his hire out company, so it might be both. With Rust Movie Productions means he bears no financial responsibility for legal fees or claims arising out of the death. The filing with the Jam's private arbitration service seeks to enforce the clause. The document names Rust Movie Productions LLC and Ryan Smith, one of the other producers, as the respondents to the claim. Someone is culpable for chambering the live round that led to this horrific tragedy, and it is someone other than Baldwin. Look, I agree with that. It doesn't mean he's not culpable. It doesn't mean he's not also in some way culpable. I don't think he loaded this gun. So I do agree with that. Nikas wrote about the claim portraying Baldwin as a victim. Well, of course it did. At least the New York Times isn't missing words. The New York Post is a little sassier about this, but the Post doesn't really like Baldwin. The Times isn't mincing words, though. The suit is painting Baldwin as a victim who trusted others to do their jobs and is haunted by Hutchins' death. This is a rare instance when the system broke down and someone should be held legally culpable for the tragic consequences. That person is not Alec Baldwin. I believe that he believes that. There's that. I believe that he believes that. Representatives of the Rust Movie LLCs and lawyer for Mr. Smith did not immediately respond to requests. I'm not surprised by that. The lawyer described in the claim how, in the weeks after the fatal shooting, Baldwin had sought to persuade the cast and crew to finish the film. What? No. 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 How is that that is the most self-serving, self-centered thing. I mean, to try to persuade everyone to go back to work to honor Hutchins, I no. Nope. When the criminal investigation is still up, no way. No way. Sought to get everyone to go back to work, outlining a plan in which an insurance payout and the film's profits would go to a settlement for Hutchins and the couple's 9-year-old. So they tried to leverage the kid. This reads very much like allegations in the Bam Margera jackass suit. Leverage the kid. If we finish the film, the proceeds can go to her son. This feels manipulative. It just feels manipulative. I don't like it. Shortly after the shooting, the filing said, Baldwin had breakfast in Santa Fe with Hutchins and his son, who all must have been in shock. At the meeting, the filing said Hutchins hugged Baldwin and told him, I guess we're going to go through this together. Leave Mr. Hutchins out of this, Baldwin's lawyers. First of all, Hutchins cannot excuse your liability. Hutchins' actions in the wake of his wife's tragic and untimely death should not be used against him in legal filings. It's fucking gross and it's unnecessary. You know why it's unnecessary? It's unnecessary because this is between you, your contract, any indemnity clause, and the other producers in the film. This has nothing to do with Helena Hutchins' husband. He is not the subject of this. He is not involved in this, and he cannot absolve you of liability. And trying to leverage something he said in the wake of his wife's death is just fucking gross. There is no need for this in this filing. There is no purpose for this in this filing. I'm granting your motion, law nerds. I see your motion. I see you all. I see your motion. It feels like fuckery to me too. It feels like fuckery to me too. It feels like DEFCON what the fuck. It does. It does. If my face is already at DEFCON red, my face has gotten there first. When I start turning red, we're already at DEFCON red. We're already there. All right. Let us go to DEFCON red. Let us just warning. For all of you that are flash sensitive, this flashes. When the music stops, the flashing will stop. It is brief, but it is flashy. We love it. So for those of you that are flash sensitive, we are going to DEFCON red in 3, 2, 1. It's done. We are red. Oh, you know why? You know why my lights aren't red enough? Hold on. Echo. Drop in kitchen. Because I left my overhead lights on. Because I was in a rush. We're gonna ask. Hey, Dr. B. Can I summon you to the office real quick? You don't have to be on camera. I just need you to turn off my overhead lights because they're drowning out the DEFCON readiness of it all. I'm in the middle of a rant. You can come if you turn off the lights. Thanks, G. Okay. Thanks, everybody. Sorry, I realize that's why my DEFCON red's not as red because my overhead lights are on and they shouldn't be on, but they're on because I forgot to turn them off. Thank you for turning them off. See? Now my red's redder. Thanks, Dr. B. See? The red is redder, right? Okay, right. We fixed it. All right, let's get back to me yelling about Alec Baldwin. Shortly after the shooting, the filing said Baldwin had breakfast. I hate this part so much. I don't see the legal purpose of it. I don't see why they would do that. I am going to talk about Hutchins' comments in an I Have Thoughts podcast. I'm not going to talk about it here, but I just I do not like it being used in this way. It just feels gross. It says, but their relationship, which continued through a series of texts and calls, broke down in the aftermath of a television interview Mr. Baldwin gave in December, in which he denied responsibility for Hutchins' death. Mr. Hutchins later filed a lawsuit. The lawsuit's not connected. The lawsuit was always coming. The lawsuit was always coming. The interview was a bad idea. But Baldwin seems to be of a personality type where he could not help himself and he had to be heard. It seemed that not having his side heard, not being able to tell his side and convince all of us why he's not at fault, why he's not the problem here, he seemed to need to be heard in a way where he could not override that need, even though it was in his best interest. And of course, the relationship deteriorated. You basically went on TV, called the victim the problem, victimized yourself, centered yourself in the entire thing, and said it was not your fault. Like someone did something, but it wasn't me. You were holding the gun at the end of the day. Mr. Hutchins later filed a lawsuit against Baldwin and followed it by giving his own television interview on NBC's Today in February, in which he described being angered by Baldwin's deflection of blame. Who wouldn't be? We're angered, and no one we love was killed. Although a number of crew members have described the set as unsafe and several quit shortly before the fatal shooting, the filing said that Baldwin had not heard about or observed any of the safety problems on set. Okay. In the filing, Baldwin sought to rebut, I bet he did, rebut several claims that Hutchin and some Rust crew members had made in lawsuits and comments to the news media. Two lawsuits filed by crew members had claimed that Baldwin should have checked the gun was safe to handle, even after he received an assurance from the film's first AD. He should have gotten it from the armorer. But in the new filing and during the firearm training for the film, the movie's armorer, Hannah Gutierrez-Reed, told Baldwin that it was her job to check the gun, not his. Then make sure the armorer's in the fucking room when you've got the guns out, not the first AD. If it's Hannah's job, then why don't you say, where's Hannah? Hannah would have said, don't point the gun at everybody, one would hope. Okay. That instruction was similar to what he had been told before. An actor cannot rule that the gun is safe, the filing said. That's the responsibility of other people on set. That's not what other actors have said, but I digress. And while a lawsuit filed by Serge or Sergei Svetnoy, I'm not sure which, he's the gaffer, whose name I had forgotten earlier, it said that the movie's producers had declined requests for weapons training days, and Gutierrez-Reed said that Baldwin had failed to attend cross-draw training, and Baldwin's filing said that he had inquired about lessons for a month before he showed up on set and that he had trained once he had arrived. The demand also claims that Mamie Mitchell, the script supervisor, had told Baldwin shortly after the fatal shooting, "You realize you're not responsible for any of what happened in there, don't you?" Mamie Mitchell's now suing him. Also, Mitchell can't absolve you from legal liability. There could be a lot of reasons. She could have been trying to placate him. Everyone, I'm sure, was stunned in the wake of this happening. So trying to hold people or use it as evidence that you're not responsible because the script supervisor said so, the script supervisor has no impact on the legal liability here or not. Mitchell is now suing Baldwin and other producers, blaming him for failing to check whether the gun he handled was loaded. A lawyer for Mitchell, Gloria Allred, in a statement said, "Whatever Miss Mitchell said immediately after the shooting, when she was in a state of shock, and whatever," I should have just kept reading, that's what I said. "And whatever Baldwin said immediately after the shooting will be testified to at the trial in our civil case." She said that this filing was simply one more attempt by Baldwin to avoid responsibility for what he did. I concur. I don't always agree with everything Gloria Allred says, but I absolutely concur with that. In the filing, Mr. Baldwin and his lawyer go so far as to publish private text correspondence, ew, between Baldwin and Hutchins, ew. The text show Baldwin checking on whether Hutchins still wanted to continue their conversations given the possible legal sensitivities. Given the likelihood that you're going to fucking sue me, would you like to continue talking? And Hutchins agreed to continue communicating despite, according to the text, the likely wishes of his legal advisors and press representative. Look, I'm going to try not to belabor this because I've already said it. This is over an indemnity clause and whether he is protected by the insurance of the movie, the other producers of the movie, based on his contract, whether he's protected. If I get sued, you have to foot the bill. I am indemnified. You foot the bill and cover me if I get sued because I'm participating. That has nothing the fuck at all to do with what Mr. Hutchins texted him. And I can only imagine that the reason to include those texts in this filing is so the media would see them and Baldwin would get to have his side told yet again. I imagine, and this is my speculation, that Baldwin did this because of Hutchins' critical interview of him. Based on everything I've seen Baldwin say, I would imagine that's why he's choosing to do it. Because he wants to tell this side of the story, and doing it in court documents is not as gross as leaking the DMs on Instagram, I guess. It still feels gross to me. I hate this so much. The text show Baldwin checking whether Hutchins. Okay, we talked about that. The filing notes that Baldwin spoke at a memorial for Miss Hutchins and that later Mr. Hutchins had shared a photograph of his son with Baldwin. Irrelevant. Later, Hutchins filed a lawsuit against Baldwin claiming he had recklessly shot and killed Helena on set. In an interview on NBC's Today, he said it was absurd for Baldwin to deny responsibility. Fair. Before Hutchins' appearance on Today's show, his interactions with Baldwin had only been polite, cooperative, and at times even warm. The Baldwin filing said, I wonder what happened after Baldwin's TV appearance, though. In the NBC interview, Hutchins spoke in emotional terms about seeing Baldwin discuss the shooting on television. I was so angry to see him talk about her death so publicly in such a detailed way, Hutchins said in the NBC interview, and then to not accept any responsibility after having just described killing her. It feels, this is my gut response. The legal is that this is arbitration over an indemnity clause in a contract to see if Baldwin as a producer and or as an actor is protected from liability, in that if he's liable, they have to pay, and they have to pay his legal fees. That's what legally is going on. As a PR move, this feels like an opportunity for Baldwin to snap back at Hutchins after Hutchins spoke on TV, because up till now, Hutchins has kind of had the last word given his interview after Baldwin's ABC interview. I do not like him doing this. I do not like him putting these seemingly irrelevant conversations in an arbitration filing that really has only to do with whether his contract indemnifies him as to other producers. It has nothing to do with what Hutchins said. It has nothing to do with what Mamie Mitchell said. And all of that feels like an opportunity for him to try to set the record straight in a public way, even though it's irrelevant to these filings. I don't like it. I understand legally the filing's proper. It didn't need so much story put in it, because you can file an arbitration demand without all of this information. This is excessive and unnecessary, and it feels very gross to me. It just feels gross to me. I don't like it. I feel for Helena's husband. If a gun hadn't been pointed at her, she wouldn't have died. And that's the simple truth of it. So when we look at negligence, somebody, probably multiple somebodies, did something wrong. Baldwin pointed a gun at a human. That's a problem. Somebody put a bullet in the gun. That's a problem. Bullets were on the set. That's a problem. I'm very interested to see what this criminal investigation will turn up and what they will determine. And they know that we are all going to want to know what they decide. We are not even done yet. We need to get to the Jussie Smollett sentencing. We have to move on, or I will rant about Baldwin more. I'm already code red in my face. Let's move on to Jussie Smollett. For those of you not familiar with this story, I understand not everybody followed it. I totally get it. Jussie Smollett told police that he had been the victim of a hate crime. He accused people of attacking him, yelling, this is MAGA country, saying racial slurs at him, saying gay slurs at him, throwing bleach on him, putting a noose around his neck on a cold night when he was just coming back from getting a sandwich, and that um and that he was the victim. The Chicago PD did an extensive and exhaustive investigation. The investigation turned up that Smollett had, in fact, hired two brothers, the Osendario brothers, to stage this hoax hate crime. It seemed that the Osendario brothers were under the impression that Smollett would pay for them. This would be on video. Smollett staged it under a street camera. The street camera, little be known to him, wasn't working, so it was not on camera. He called the police to his home. The Osendario brothers seemed to believe that he would not report this to police, that he was kind of staging it for publicity. The sentencing hearing yesterday is what I'm going to focus on. If you want to see my other coverage of this case, I did talk about it when he was convicted. He was convicted of 5 counts of essentially filing a false police report, which in Chicago is called disturbing the peace. If you watched any of the coverage on this, you will now know that in Chicago, filing a false police report disturbing the peace is a class 4 felony. When states class felony, it is partly a sentencing provision. It is partly a recognition of the tiers of crime, this being a the lowest level felony and a non-violent crime. Just because it is a low level crime doesn't mean it's not serious. It is still a felony. The hearing went in multiple parts. If you didn't and don't want to watch the entire stream, I'm going to try to highlight it for you. If you want to know my thoughts on the entire stream, I did try to live tweet it as best I could while I was live streaming over on Nate's channel. So, with that, the defense attorneys had previously filed a motion for new trial. A motion for new trial and a judgment notwithstanding the verdict. We've covered a number of these on the channel. The judgment notwithstanding a verdict means a verdict came down, but no reasonable jury on these facts could legally find a verdict or legally find this conviction. So with that, they're saying, Your Honor, there's not enough evidence here. You cannot convict them. A jury could not legally convict them of this. There's a fatal flaw in the case. That was denied. There was also a motion for new trial based on like 13 points with sub points of the fact that a whole bunch of shit went wrong. Like a whole bunch of shit went wrong. Some of those points I was like, I can't even. Some of those points I was like, oh, that's interesting. What was very clear is that the court had previously ruled on all of these points, and they were preserving this for appeal, which will surely be filed shortly. They filed notice of appeal with the court at the end of sentence. They are going to appeal. What they are going to appeal on is that, one, the prosecution could not be reinstated. Based on everything I saw and everything I heard, I think this is their strongest argument. Their argument is essentially kind of akin to the Cosby argument, really, is that Jussie Smollett was originally indicted on like 16 counts and was arrested. He filed a $10,000 bond. He was out on that bond. And then he reached some kind of an agreement, a non-prosecute agreement. Like, we're not going to prosecute you. We're going to forfeit your bond. You're going to do some community service. We're not going to prosecute you. There's a whole lot of other stuff that happened in that I am not getting into today. It is the prosecutor that did that is also being investigated for doing that. Not okay what went down, but they are saying that the prosecutor, even if what they did was not okay, did they make an agreement with Jussie Smollett and he turned over $10K and did whatever community service if he actually did, and therefore he should benefit from that non-prosecution agreement, and then that second prosecution should be ruled invalid the way it was in Cosby. I don't think he detrimentally relied on this. Cosby testified under oath based on the assurances of prosecutors. It's different for me than Jussie, who just got re-prosecuted and they credited the forfeited $10K to his restitution. I'm not sure it's the same. It's sure going to go up on appeal. I will be interested to see more details about what went on with that, because once that went down, the city of Chicago was like, seriously, guys, WTF. And they chose to appoint a special prosecutor, which is a private law firm in Chicago. They then did another indictment. They went to a grand jury again, and they reinstituted the prosecution with, instead of 16 counts, only 6 counts, 5 of which he was convicted on, all of them for giving false police reports for different times or different interviews and different statements to the police. With that, they made a very lengthy motion for new trial. What came up in that motion that I was unaware of is that the defense was really salty that the judge didn't let them ask every single one of their voir dire questions. We've talked a lot about voir dire questions on this channel. Juror 50. Looking at you, Juror 50. We've talked a lot about voir dire and how important voir dire is. And we've talked a lot about voir dire questions. We've talked a lot about the things people ask juries. You know what Jussie Smollett's attorneys wanted to ask the juries? You know what they wanted to ask? Batman or Superman? If you could be an animal, what animal would you be? And the court's like, so when I didn't let you ask all of your questions on voir dire, you seriously wanted me to let you ask a jury in the middle of a pandemic when voir dire is really fucking hard to do what animal they would be if they could be an animal? You want me to do that? That's what you're standing here right now telling me that I did not let you ask all of your voir dire questions, and you wanted me to let you ask this jury Superman versus Batman? The fuck? That's what the judge didn't say it with all the curse words, but that was the basic gist of what the judge said to that argument about voir dire. The judge cut the attorney off at that point and was like, I let you ask your voir dire questions. These were not the voir dire questions. And the judge, the defense attorney, to her credit, did not lose her mind. None of the other people in the courtroom started laughing, which is what I would have done improperly, but I probably would have. Nobody started laughing because apparently this had really been asked for. The judge, this was not hyperbole. This was the judge saying, I didn't let you ask all your questions. Accurate. If you guys want to put in the chat which animal you would be if you could be an animal, I would love to know. Tell me. I would love to know, and maybe at the end of this stream I will tell you. And maybe I was going to do a different COPO, but maybe we need to do Superman versus Batman tonight for COPO. Not best Batman. I haven't seen the Pattinson one yet, so I can't weigh in there, but maybe we should do that. Maybe we should just do that instead. Anyway, with that, the judge wasn't having it. And I totally lost my train of thought. The judge wasn't having it. The prosecution got to make a rebuttal and say, Your Honor, they went on for like over an hour. These are the motions. You've already ruled. The other judges already ruled. Everybody took great care in this case. We're not overturning these rulings. There is nothing improper that went on in this case, on and on and on. The judge denied the judgment notwithstanding a verdict, denied the motion for new trial, took a break. Come back from break, and now we're finally into the sentencing hearing. Oh, good. We're finally getting to the sentencing hearing. This should be an hour. Wrong. Inaccurate. This was not an hour. We get into the sentencing hearing. The defense makes an initial, I think, a very brief statement. If I recall correctly, they might not have said anything. They might have just gone to evidence and presented evidence. The reason they present evidence is because they have to base their arguments at sentencing on evidence. You are allowed to present witnesses. You see this more in death penalty cases, truly, where you present witnesses because what the defense attorneys are literally arguing for is someone to not be sentenced to death by a jury, for someone to get life without parole instead of the death penalty. And you normally see quite a substantial number of witnesses there. I have never seen this many witnesses on a class 4 low level felony, but it was very clear that they were trying to keep Jussie out of custody. The weight of all of the people who testified for the defense and gave statements for the defense were very much trying to keep Jussie out of serving any custody time. The defense must have been very concerned going in that custody time was very much on the table, or they wouldn't have spent the time. Oh, maybe they would have. They wanted the cameras in the courtroom. That's the other thing we learned in the motion is that the defense argued back up. The defense argued that Jussie didn't have a public trial because of COVID. And the judge was like, you were the ones who didn't want cameras in the courtroom for the trial, which was the first I had heard of that, which was very interesting to me, that the defense didn't want cameras in the courtroom during the trial, then argued that it wasn't a public trial in front of the same judge with a straight face, but wanted cameras in the courtroom for the sentencing. I thought that was very interesting. And I thought that gave context to the entire presentation of a Chicago courtroom that harkened back to give them the old razzle dazzle, actually from Chicago. It felt like that kind of courtroom scene was playing out, like a television drama courtroom scene. So they called 2 witnesses that had known Jussie and had done community service with him and thought he was a great member of the community. That's what you do at a sentencing hearing as a defense. He's a great guy. Give him a chance. The system sucks. Don't send him to custody. Then they had his brother and his grandmother testify. I thought his grandmother was adorable. His grandmother talked about the fact that she is Jewish. She had marched with Martin Luther King, that their family had always felt very strongly about social justice. And she turned around and looked at the judge and was like, if you send him to prison, you have to send me too. And I thought it was sweet. I've seen a lot of grandmas in court and moms and family members. I give them a lot of leeway. They are having their say for their loved one. If you've never had a loved one that's been in trouble with the law, please don't judge too harshly what people would do to protect someone that they love, no matter what the person they love has done. When it comes to court and having the opportunity to say, this is why I think you should show this individual leniency. I give full grace to his family members who were like, this is why he should be shown leniency. I thought his grandma was very sweet. I did. I thought she was adorable. And so with that, they then presented all of the letters. All of the letters. And yes, in the chat, when you're like, she pointed her finger at him, she fully pointed her finger at him. Which is not the worst thing I've seen anyone do to a judge at a sentencing hearing, by the way. I'll tell those stories in a minute. But yeah, she fully pointed a finger at him. And it was not in an aggressive way. It was just sweet. It was just sweet. It was just if you send him to prison, look, young man, if you're going to send my grandson to prison, you send me too. It was loving. She was trying to be loving to Jussie. She was not rude to the judge. She was not overly aggressive with the judge. She was not screaming at the judge. She was being a sweet, gracious grandma. I thought grandma was endearing. And I liked her. So grandma was kind of the highlight for me of all of the people the defense presented. And then the letters. And the letters were all very much the same. They were all from, people who had titles and actresses and whatever. Those were all submitted. None of those needed to be read. At most sentencing hearings, if letters are submitted, they go into the file and onto the record. They don't ever need to be read. The prosecution gets them beforehand. The court gets a copy and they go into the record. The court normally reads them beforehand or a substantial portion of them, but they decided that they were going to take their sweet time and read so many of the letters. Once we got through 4 witnesses, when the letters came out, they were like, I have a letter from, and I was like, oh, no letters. No letters. The prosecution presented a letter from the city of Chicago and Chicago PD that was asking for their restitution. They didn't read the whole thing. They read the the snippets of it saying this is why we need restitution. They also read in that the police department did a substantial amount of work to solve this crime, and that the police department feels that harm is done to true victims of crime when somebody fakes a crime. As a former prosecutor, I don't disagree. Victims already have to overcome a lot of natural bias that people lie about these things, and, oh, well, witnesses lie and victims lie, and that didn't really happen. And people who have never had experience with being a victim or crime or criminality at all have a hard time sometimes believing that these things happen. And when you have a case like this that's so public, it can do further damage. I absolutely agreed with that statement, not to mention the amount of time, the cases that went unsolved, and most cases do not get hundreds and hundreds of hours of overtime. I've never seen a case where a police department has reviewed 1,500 hours of footage to try to solve a crime. He got treated above and beyond what most people would have, because the city of Chicago was horrified, it seems, that that kind of a hate crime would go on their streets. And most people would be. If what he said happened to him happened, then it is some of the most disgusting shit ever, and the people should be found and prosecuted. And the fact that he did that and lied about it is equally disgusting, in my opinion. So the prosecution asked for restitution. Everybody in grandma spoke, brother, grandma, family acquaintances, all of the letters. And then everybody gave a closing argument. They had their evidence, they gave their closing. The closings were actually quite good. They were some of the most succinct. I liked the closings. I thought they did a good job. I liked some of the prosecution attorneys. The defense attorneys did a great job presenting their case. I think that they made some strategic decisions that didn't help them. I think they went above and beyond, but I also think they overdid it, and it pissed off the judge, because after they took a break and were ready for sentencing, the judge was like, "It's my court now, bitches. All of you sit down. I'm going to tell you what the fuck I think." And he popped off for like 45 minutes of popping off. And it was judicial. I have seen judges holler at defendants. I have seen judges bring words that are much more harsh than what this judge had for Jussie Smollett. This judge called him a narcissist, called him entitled, called him selfish, called the entire thing a hoax, talked about Jussie premeditating this. You woke up and wanted to do something and were going to do something bad. The judge said, you scripted this. You rehearsed this. You brought props for this. You knew what you were doing. This wasn't a crime of opportunity. This wasn't a crime of passion. This wasn't a spontaneous decision. The judge gave some examples. The judge was like, look, sometimes somebody gets pushed and they push back and they punch, and you've got these assault cases and people are like, I don't even know how the fuck we got here. I don't know. Things happened. You get impulse crimes where people are like, oh, that car looks like I could take it. Sure could take it. Go ahead and take it. There are different types of crimes, and there are different types of criminals. He absolutely planned this out strategically, and the court said that the judge believed he planned this strategically to bolster his own career, to become even more famous, and to get public sympathy during a time when our country was healing. I think what the judge said was that he ripped the scab off of healing wounds in this country. The judge said that the weight of the evidence in this case was overwhelming. The judge was angry. Like, the judge was angry that Jussie would flaunt the justice system. He also said, the only one who has harmed you in this is you. You have done this to yourself. You did not stop. At any point you could have stopped, and you did not stop. You didn't have to report this to the police. You didn't have to keep going with the story. You didn't have to take this to court. You could have stopped at any point, and you did not. And he went in. He called him a narcissist more than a few times. He called this a hoax more than a few times. It definitely raised Jussie's eyebrows. Jussie clearly visually did not like this being called a hoax. And then the judge sentenced him to 30 months of felony probation, 120,000 in restitution because there's that 10K that's already been paid, like a down payment. I don't know. That's not a good way to explain it, but a 10K that was already forfeited that got applied to 130,000 in restitution. He hit him with 25,000 in fines, which is very high for a criminal case. But I think the judge feels that Jussie needs to feel the weight of what he's doing because he's never accepted responsibility for what he did. And then he sentenced him to 150 days in jail, not prison, jail, which is 5 months roughly in jail. Can he get good time, work time? I don't know the jail system in Chicago well. I would guess that yes, he can. I don't know that calculation. Sometimes it's day for day, sometimes it's 2 for 1. I've seen it as high as 3 for 1. So it just depends on how Chicago does it. So he gets 5 months in jail, and the judge is like, "Do you have any questions?" And Jussie's like, pulls down his mask and is like, "I need to say something." And then goes on to proceed and says, "I am not suicidal. I respect your honor. I respect the court. I am not suicidal. I am innocent. I did not do this. You are saying that I put my fist in the fear of Black America, of the gay community." And then he said again that he is not inclined to self-harm. I didn't know if he said that because he is freaked the fuck out. I don't know if he said that because he is worried he might get hurt in custody. It is a real fear. I don't know if he said that because he is hoping to get put on a watch so he will be put alone. Generally, new people coming into the custody system are put on independently and on a watch. And because he is a celebrity, he will probably be away from others and they will pick who he is with. They did that with Lindsay Lohan when she was in custody. She was actually in custody with a defendant on one of my cases that they became good buddies, but they were in the same little wing. But he will get put with people who are nonviolent, and they generally try to protect people in custody. He is just, I don't know if he was trying to get himself into psych, thinking that maybe being in medical is better than being in custody. He's not going to be in general pop either way. Fred, are you sitting on your brother? Like, what are you doing back there? He's literally, one of them is, Fred is like sitting on George. I don't know what's happening. He's trying to find himself some room to sit and is not. So with that, yeah, he's going to spend 5 months. And I think what he said was strategic. People were like, he had an outburst. Look, that is not an outburst. He was not screaming. He did not attempt to throw anything. He did not foist his attorney out of the way. He was fairly calm and collected and had to say what he had to say. But I don't think he was particularly aggravated. I have seen very aggravated defendants at sentencing. Jussie was not it. It was a statement. It might have been a performance, but it was not a sentencing outburst where the sheriffs are pulling their weapons out, which does happen in court. It is always slightly concerning. So with that, we should move on. Are we ready to move on? I think we're ready to move on. Let us move on. So if we need to tell stories, we'll tell sentencing stories another day, I think. And then we'll do questions. We're going to do my brain just stopped all of a sudden. It was just like, Emily, you've had one drink. We're going to be completely flushed. Yes, I have an alcohol flush response. You will always know if I have been drinking. I will always be slightly red. Though when I was in college at UMass Amherst and had to walk home after being out and didn't have a coat and it was cold, I was always kept warm by my own internal flush. It was great. Like Juror 50, I can feel the blood. I know my face is red. We are going to move on to the Gabby Petito lawsuit. I'm going to try to take it down a notch to lessen the aggravation from my voice from the last topics that we have been covering. Let's talk about this new lawsuit, Petito versus Laundry. Gabby Petito's parents are suing Brian Laundrie's parents. I'm going to do a first look with you. Yes, I've already read it. It's actually fairly concise and not super long. We're going to talk about what the claims are here, why what was said, and answer your questions. I will probably do a deep dive where I pull up the laws in Florida and kind of evaluate the elements of the laws in Florida against this case. But tonight we're doing kind of first impressions and a broad overview of what's going on, and a first glance for y'all. So let's get into this lawsuit. I should say let's get into this lawsuit. Also me. But wait, there's more. When I was covering this case, and I've covered it, I mean, since the beginning, but not every development. We did kind of groupings together of information in covering this case. This was one of the things I think y'all asked about the most is, can Gabby Petito sue the Laundries over the Laundries not telling them and all the other stuff that the Laundries were doing? Can they sue? And when I said, well, maybe emotion, like intentional infliction of emotional distress, like maybe, but it's going to be hard. This is where we're at. We're with maybe, but it's going to be hard. I know this topic is difficult to talk about because I know there are very strong feelings about what the Laundry family did. However, the Laundry family don't necessarily owe a legal duty to the Petito family. And you have heard me say this in other cases. It doesn't mean I like what they did, but you've heard me say this in other cases. Where is the duty of care? Where do you owe a duty to do or not to do something? And that's one of the things we're going to have to consider here is there a duty here that has been breached? Is it enough that it hasn't been? And legality and morality are not always the same. Being heartless is not always illegal. So I don't like how the Laundries behaved in the time after Gabby Petito was killed either. However, I don't know if they were legally obligated to do anything other than what they were doing. And I also hope that the Petitos are able to go to discovery, do depositions, and at least get, if there's texts or bank transactions, see what the Laundries were doing to aid Brian if they were. I don't know if they'll get all of that because aiding Brian is not really the crux of this lawsuit. True, truly. So, legality, morality, and we're going to have to just take a deep breath and we're all going to have to be like, all right, we might not like it, but let's look at the law because it is hard. This is the hard stuff where you have to look at the law. And that's what we're going to do right now. Dana Maria is like, snowing in Kentucky. I mean, it's supposed to be here soon too. I don't know if it's actually snowing. It was raining just a few minutes ago, but it's probably cold enough to be snowing now. I keep getting, like, my watch keeps pinging with weather notifications. Me soliloquying in the middle here. My watch keeps pinging with weather notifications because March was like, haha, you thought it was going to be spring just because it's daylight savings time. Enjoy one last snow, motherfucker. All right, let us go. I should not be sassy in the middle of this suit. It's just we've already been sassy this evening and it's hard to turn it back off. It doesn't mean I don't take it seriously. I was looking at weather. I will do that when we get to questions. All right. This is Sarasota County, Florida. The Petito, Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt, by and through their lawyers, are filing this complaint against Christopher and Roberta Laundrie. This is an action for damages that exceed. I don't know why my mouse is like not highlighting stuff. All right, we're just not getting highlights. My mouse is like negative ghostwriter. The pattern is fully full. This is an action for damages that exceed $30,000, exclusive of prejudgment interest, costs, and attorney's fees. I am guessing the reason that they said 30,000 is the jurisdictional reason. Jurisdictional amounts can bump you into different courts. There are unlimited courts. There are limited jurisdiction courts that tend to be like small claims courts. And so the jurisdictional amount can be different. We see it a lot. We cover a lot of federal cases where it's that 75,000 mark. It needs to bump you into the right court. Hey, we think we can get more than this if we get an award of judgment. So that's where that number is coming from. It's not that they're suing for $30,000. It's the jurisdictional amount. They think this will exceed $30,000. And if it goes to jury trial, it's going to be hard. I think if this gets to a trial, I think it would be, no matter what the facts are, or not, that's not true. No matter what the elements are, I think it's an uphill battle against perception for the Laundries because the jury's going to feel the way you feel. They say venue is proper in Sarasota, jurisdiction is proper because Joseph Petito is a resident of Vero Beach, Florida. Schmidt is a resident of Blue Point, New York. The Laundries are residents of Northport, Florida, and are the parents of Brian Laundrie, deceased. And then they list that Joseph Petito, of course, is the father of Gabby, and Nicole is the mother of Gabby. Brian Laundrie and Gabby Petito became engaged to marry on or about July 2nd, 2020. On July 2nd, 2021, I like the parody there that they were engaged right before 4th of July. They took off on their road trip right before 4th of July. On July 2nd, 2021, they left New York in a van owned by Gabby Petito to take a trip to the Western United States, which was expected to last for several months. Prior to the trip taken by Gabby and Brian, Joseph Petito and Nicole Schmidt and the Laundries had a cordial relationship. Gabby had hopes of becoming a travel influencer and van lifer and document her cross-country travels on social media sites such as YouTube, Instagram, and TikTok. During the course of the aforementioned trip, Gabby called her family almost daily, including her parents, Joseph and Nicole, and her siblings. The last communication that Gabby and Joseph had with Joseph was on August 21, 2021. The last communication that Nicole had with Gabby was on August 27th, 2021. It's believed that on August 27th, this all makes me so sad. It's believed that on August 27th, Brian murdered Gabby Petito. The cause of death was blunt force injuries to the head and neck with manual strangulation. That means by hands. I covered that when I covered the cause of death and manner of death in another video. Gabby Petito was 22 at the time of her death. Brian Laundrie murdered Gabby Petito. Brian Laundrie sent text messages back and forth between his cell phone and Gabby Petito's phone in an effort to hide the fact that she was deceased. Some of this is them being able, I think, to tell their side, because some of this is context, and I think you can argue that it's context in why this is and why this is emotional distress. So on August 27th, it's believed that Brian sent a text to Gabby's mother, Nicole, in which he referred to Gabby Petito's father, Stan, by name. Gabby Petito never called her grandfather by his name. So this is some of that ruse that people had questioned or alluded to during the course of the investigation and the reporting coming out during that time. It's believed and therefore averred, pled, is what that means, that on or about August 28th, Brian advised his parents, the Laundries, that he had murdered Gabby Petito. I wonder what makes them believe, I wonder why they believe that and what evidence they have that makes them believe that. I'm just very curious why they believe that, and what they're going to use to prove that. Again, lawsuits, and there is information in this lawsuit. Lawsuits are allegations and shade. So this lawsuit is allegations. So even though they don't say it's alleged, it's alleged, it's alleged, these are all being alleged in this lawsuit. I'm interested to know why they believe that on the 28th, Brian advised his parents and how they know that. So, on that same date, the Laundries spoke with attorney Steve Bertolino and sent him a retainer on September 2nd. That might be why they are making that connection about the 28th. We know that Stephen Bertolino talked more than any lawyer should ever fucking talk, because he did not rein himself in well. He is not a attorney that is he doesn't seem to be media savvy. We'll just put it that way. He had a lot to say, and he gave a lot of information that maybe shouldn't have, but he did talk about the retainer date. I don't think he talked publicly to what I remember about the date they first contacted him and said that that is attorney-client privilege. So I wonder, again, what information they have that leads them to believe this. I hope that they have evidence to back up these claims as they go forward. On August 30th, Laundrie sent a text message from Gabby Petito's phone to her mom stating that there was no service in Yosemite in an effort to deceive Nicole into believing that Gabby Petito was still alive. I mean, I think that's a reasonable conclusion given that the text was sent They then go on to say that on September 1st, Brian returned to the home of his parents, driving Gabby Petito's van. We know what we've seen in news reports that the van ended up back there. The FBI took it. At this point in time, there was no contact between Gabby's parents on the one hand and the Laundries on the other hand, which again, I understand if you have engaged, if your children are engaged and your child shows up without their fiance driving their fiance's vehicle, you would have a lot of fucking questions, and not telling the other family seems particularly cold and cruel. That doesn't mean there's a legal duty to tell them anything, and that is the difficulty in this case. It doesn't mean that they had to. Legality, morality. From August 27th till September 19th, when Petito's remains were found at the Spread Creek dispersed camping area in Wyoming, plaintiffs were extremely distraught. I imagine that to be true, and were attempting to locate Gabby Petito. We watched that all play out in the news. While Petito's family was suffering, the Laundrie family went on vacation to Fort DeSoto Park on September 6th and 7th. In effort to avoid any contact with Nicole on or about September 10th, Roberta Laundrie blocked Nicole on her cell phone such that neither phone calls nor texts could be delivered, and blocked her on Facebook. On September 14th, with full knowledge that Gabby Petito had been murdered by their son, Christopher Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie, through their lawyer, issued the following statement. I don't know how they're going to prove that the Laundries knew that. I will be interested to see that. I will be interested to see how they know that. But this is the statement that was released in the media. Quote, "It is our understanding that a search has been organized for Miss Petito in or near Grand Teton National Park in Wyoming. On behalf of the Laundrie family, it is our hope that the search for Miss Petito is successful and that Miss Petito is reunited with her family." I will say that it wasn't until let me look at my notes real quick. Because her parents didn't know and didn't report her missing, and I'm pulling up my timeline of notes from when this all went down, because a lot happened in between there. September 11th is when Gabby Petito's family reported her missing to police. So Brian Laundrie's been home for 10 days. They've gone vacationing, and then on the 16th, 5 days later, this statement is released. So this is 5 days after she was reported missing by her parents, but significantly longer after the date they believe she was killed on, which is August 27th, which is consistent with what the coroner said. And the only reason I know all those details is because we covered this on this channel together. And there is a playlist of all of this stuff. On September 16th, 2021, Attorney Stafford, on behalf of the Petito's family, issued a letter to Chris Laundrie and Roberta Laundrie as follows. They also, I believe, did an interview around that time. "We are writing this letter to ask you to help find our beautiful daughter. We also, well, let me keep reading. We understand that you are going through a difficult time and your instinct is to protect your son is strong. We ask that you put yourselves in our shoes. We haven't been able to sleep or eat and our lives are falling apart. We believe that you know the location of where Brian left Gabby. We beg you to tell us, as a parent, how could you let us go through this pain and not help us? As a parent, how could you put Gabby's younger brothers and sisters through this? Gabby lived with you for over a year. She was going to be your daughter-in-law. How could you keep her location hidden? You were both at Jim and Nicole's house. You were both so happy that Brian and Gabby got engaged and were planning to spend their lives together. Please, if you or your family have any decency left, please tell us where Gabby is located. Tell us if we are even looking in the right place. All we want is Gabby to come home. Please help us make this happen." What I will say, is that I completely get where the Petitos are coming from. I can't imagine the rage and the hurt and the fear. Actually, that's not true. I can't imagine the rage and the hurt and the fear. I can unfortunately imagine it all too well, which is why this case sometimes is hard for me to cover because it's a bit too close to home. But it doesn't mean that the Laundries had an obligation to say anything to aid in the investigation, because if they knew that their son had killed Gabby Petito and they had given that location, it could implicate their son. And while that sucks, their lawyer would have said, "You're not saying shit about shit to anyone. You're not saying anything. And anything you say could land your son in prison for the rest of his life." Now, I'm looking at my timeline real quick because um I'm curious as to what they thought the date of death was for Brian Laundrie when they found his remain finally found his remains in November of 2021, but I believe they had placed his time of death somewhere in that September 15th, 16th, 17th range, and I'm trying to keep the timeline in mind as we're looking at the timeline of this happening, because this was issued September 16th was when this pleading statement was issued September 16th to the family of Brian Laundrie. But we know from the timeline that Brian Laundrie had taken his parents' car and had gone to the reserve. And on September 17th, so this is why I wanted to look back at my timeline. On September 16th, they released that letter. The Petitos released that letter. On September 17th, the Laundries tell the police that they had not seen Brian since September 14th. And then they correct their statement that they had not seen him since September 13th. And it's believed that it was around that time when he took his own life. So with that being said, this pleading statement came a day before they told police, Brian's missing too, and we're searching for Brian too. And the Laundrie family attorney on September 17th, which I don't know if it's in this lawsuit, maybe I should keep reading, but I'm not going to. The Laundrie family attorney said on September 17th, per my notes, that the whereabouts of Brian Laundrie are currently unknown. The FBI is at the Laundrie residence removing property to assist in locating Brian. As of now, the FBI is looking for both Gabby and Brian, and that statement made us all want to vomit. So, with that, let us continue. They say that despite the fact that the Petitos, I know that Nicole has a different last name, but Gabby's parents, I'm going to refer to as the Petitos off and on because for clarity and brevity. Emily, brevity? Really? Sometimes. The Petitos implored the Laundries to tell them if their daughter was alive and if she was not, where her remains were located. The Laundries refused to respond to the Petitos or to law enforcement. Again, they don't have to. I know that feels awful, but legally they don't have to. We will talk, I'm sure, in the Q&A about whether they were aiding and abetting after the fact. We will talk about that. But they don't have to tell, they don't owe a duty to tell the Petitos. A moral obligation, I think yes. That's for everyone to determine for themselves. But a legal obligation, no. The Laundries instructed that all contacts were to be made through their attorney, Bertolino, and he issued a no comment when asked about Gabby Petito's well-being. Of course he did. While the Petitos were desperately searching for information concerning their daughter, the Laundries were keeping the whereabouts of Brian a secret, and it's believed they were making arrangements for him to leave the country, which is not ideal and might be aiding and abetting after the fact. But at that time, in the timeline of when this was happening, Brian Laundrie was not a suspect in this case. And if he had left the country in September, he had not been charged with the crime and he was not unable to do so. He could have left the country. They would have figured out that he did if he had done it lawfully, if he had taken a boat a little bit harder, but he could have left the country. He was not obligated to stay in Florida. He was not restricted from free movement because he was not a suspect in this case at that time. It wasn't until me going back to my timeline. It wasn't until he was charged in the credit card, the unlawful use, sorry, of the debit card, that he was then unable to freely move about the country, though we now know, because hindsight, that he was deceased at that time. So he was charged, trying to look at exactly when he was charged. The arrest warrant was issued on September 23rd in line with that indictment. So things happened pretty quick after the 16th, but he was still free to move about the country up until the 20 or out of the country up until the 23rd of September. Hopefully the timeline's helpful to y'all. I might have to do a more streamlined version of this with my actual amazing timeline graphics from the Amazing Tech Valor, but let me know if that would be helpful to do it in like a succinct fashion instead of jumping back and forth. So they believed that they were making arrangements for him to leave the country. At that time, he probably could have. The Laundries knew of the mental suffering and anguish of the Petitos. I don't doubt that that's accurate. And knew they could alleviate, at least in part, such mental suffering and anguish by disclosing what they knew about the well-being and the location of the remains of Gabby Petito. Yet they repeatedly refused to do so. In doing so, Christopher and Roberta Laundrie acted with malice or great indifference to the rights of Petito Schmidt. I don't know what rights they're talking about, but we'll get there. The Laundries exhibited extreme and outrageous conduct, that might be true, which constitutes behavior under the circumstances which goes beyond all possible bounds of decency and is regarded as shocking, atrocious, and utterly intolerable in a civilized community. That is why this makes it the intentional infliction of emotional distress. That's intentional infliction of emotional distress language, but they don't clearly plead intentional infliction of emotional distress. You'll see what I mean when we get down there later. Heretofore IIED, but that's the language of IIED. The behavior is extreme and outrageous that under the circumstances goes beyond all possible bounds of decency. Now, whether the Laundries will then be able to argue, but we would have implicated our son in a crime, I don't know if that's going to persuade a jury here. I just don't on IIED. I just don't. And the last time we talked about IIED, the most recent case, was in the Cardi B Tasha K case. They say that as a direct and proximate result, so this is your causation of the willful and malicious, or the willfulness and maliciousness of the Laundries, the Petitos had been caused to suffer pain and suffering. I don't doubt that. Mental anguish, inconvenience, loss of capacity for enjoyment of life experienced in the past to be experienced in the future. I don't doubt any of that. I think they'll be able to prove the mental anguish for the emotional distress. I don't think the emotional distress is going to be a question here. And then that's the end of the pleading. So what's interesting to me, and I don't practice in Florida, what's interesting to me is they don't clearly state the cause of action. And there's no the prayer for relief is very short compared to the way we see them in other states and jurisdictions. The Petitos respectfully request that the court enter judgment in their favor against the Laundries and award them just compensation for damages together with costs. It's a very brief way to write a lawsuit, but it's they don't clearly state the claim, but we all know IIED well enough to know that that's what it is. Let me pull up do I just go to a concise restatement of torts and pull it, or do I just pull the general one? The general IIED, just go to my notes real quick and pull it up. So I don't want to try to pull it off the top of my brain and get it wrong, frankly. I want to make sure I have my notes for my elements of IIED. So let me just grab that real quick because we have them. And I can control F my way to them. Let's see. No, that's not it. It's going to take me just a second. Probably should have pulled it up earlier. We are professionals here. It's generally, and this is a restatement second of torts definition of it. Florida might vary a little bit, and I will, if I do a breakdown of this case, if that's helpful, then I will break down Florida's law versus just the general law, but most states rely on the second restatement of torts version. I feel like I'm in law school at the moment. outrageous conduct by the defendant, and you guys can let me know in the chat and in the comments what you think. Outrageous conduct by the defendant, and it's, do you feel this way based on what we've read, and do you think a jury will feel this way? Because if this gets to jury, and I think this is sufficiently pled on its face, whether it sustains beyond that, we will have to see. I think it's sufficiently pled on its face to state a claim upon which relief should be granted. It is a well pleaded facts. There are facts. Um, Once you get to a jury, I think it's an uphill battle for the laundries because I think most people have a gut response to this going, "Mm, that fucking sucks and I don't like it." And I think that will be very, very, very hard for a jury to overcome. So, outrageous conduct by the defendant, intention of causing or reckless disregard to the probability of causing emotional distress. I don't think it was intent. I don't think the behavior was done to intend harm on the Petitos. Different than like the Tasha K. Cardi B case. I think it was in reckless disregard that that would happen, but I think the intention was to protect uh, Brian or perhaps to protect themselves. What'll be interesting is if they try to plead the fifth in this, wondering if they will still be charged in this case. But that is a question for another day or for questions after this. Actual suffering of severe emotional distress, I don't think there's going to be any question. An actual or proximate causation. The actual or proximate causation of the emotional distress is going to be hard. And this is the stuff that lawyers have to do that feels really gross. And it's something plaintiffs' lawyers have to do. The laundry's lawyers will have to argue that, and this is an argument that we saw in the Bryant case, the County of Los Angeles arguing that Vanessa Bryant's um, emotional distress was caused by the death of her husband and not caused by the photos with regard to the county and with regard to the sheriffs taking photos and leaking them. That the distress is really caused by the death, not the action. So the laundry attorneys will have to argue, if it gets that far, that the distress that the Petitos felt was due to the death of their daughter and not the fact that the laundries didn't tell them that her daughter was missing. I think it is a harder argument for the laundries than it is in the Vanessa Bryant case, because in the Bryant case, the two things happened close in time. In this case, there is that long period of time where Petito was missing and her remains weren't found, and it was unknown if she was alive, if she could be saved, if she was deceased. And that period of time, I think, will be enough to show that the not knowing her location was the cause of their emotional distress before they knew that she was deceased. I think. We will see. It will be informed by case law. I will need to look directly at the law in Florida, but those are the things that I am thinking as I'm thinking of an IIED claim in Florida. Outrageous conduct, and again, there's going to be argument back and forth about whether this is outrageous in light of the circumstances. Is it outrageous when your son is being looked at potentially for murder? Is it outrageous to not say anything? I don't know if that will be considered outrageous by a jury, even though we all fucking hate it. And then the reckless disregard, I think, is there. Actual suffering, I think, is there. And then the proximate causation, I think they would be able to argue pretty easily that that period of time before they knew she was deceased is that period of time. The outrageous conduct is part of what they're going to argue, that they were obligated to remain silent, that they couldn't say anything. So we will see. I think this lawsuit gets past an initial like 12B6. I think it's pled well enough to withstand that. The point of this might not be monetary gain because, again, this is a civil lawsuit. The standard of proof is lower. A jury doesn't have to be unanimous if it goes to trial. And they can get discovery. Discovery might be the point here. Depositions might be the point here. The Petitos might want to sit across the table from the laundries and be able to say, why didn't you tell us? What did you know? And they might want to force the laundries to plead the fifth to show the world that the laundries are hiding something. That might be part of the goal here too, to get to to get to more answers and to get to more understanding. So we'll see. This investigation, for all intents and purposes, the FBI closed it. I think if the FBI was, well, no, that's not a thing. If the FBI was going to charge anyone or the AUSAs were going to charge anyone, they would have done it. I don't know if Florida will still do that if the FBI and the AUSAs chose not to. Could Florida still charge for things that were said to the Northport Police Department if the laundries misled them or if the laundries tried to obstruct their investigation in some way? Possibly, but we've seen no inclination of that. Is it a potential? Yeah, they still have time to do that. This is still very, very close in time. We're not a year out of this, so there still is time for that. So that's my thought. We should get to questions. It's like 2 hours and 15 minutes in. We talked about a lot of things tonight. Should we pour more whiskey? I mean, maybe there's a little bit more. Maybe there's a little bit. I think so. Let's get to questions. I've got questions. You've got questions. We've got questions. Also, if you're new here and you haven't done the likey, subscribey things, go ahead and do the likey, subscribey things here on the YouTubes. We are getting close. Something started playing. We are getting very close to 200,000 subscribers. It would be so cool if we were there. Wouldn't that be awesome? I think it would be. We're going to do Galaxy hair. I might jump the gun a little bit because A, we're going to get to it, and B, your girl needs some fresh color. Like the top has gotten very, very brown, and the rest is, I mean, I like the way it grows out, but I'm very ready for some more color. So I might just have to do it. But we are more than halfway to 200K. So if you're watching and you're not subscribed and a cursing, whiskey drinking, purple haired lawyer breaking down lawsuits is what you're into, go ahead and subscribe. We do this a lot here. I think a case brief on this lawsuit might be helpful. You guys let me know. All right, let's get to questions. So we will go. I'm going to do this one first. Laura Miller, wonder if the Petito family were allowed to read the notebook. I hope that they were. I imagined that they would have been because they should have been. So it's kind of up to law enforcement. Let us do the things. My ice is almost gone, but that's okay. We'll just do a little bit. We don't need too much more. You see how red your girl's face gets when she drinks. We don't need too much more to drink. Question, why did they delay so long in naming Brian Laundrie a suspect? Well, they didn't have a manner of death. They didn't have a cause of death for all of that. They didn't have a location of her. They hadn't identified remains. So they do it. It's done, but it is very hard to proceed in homicide cases without a body. And they didn't have any of that yet. And it was in missing person cases, it was fairly fast to make that determination because she still could have been found. And this is what law enforcement will go through. This is not me making excuses. This is me talking you through the process. Could they have gotten in a fight and she bailed on him? Because remember, he didn't say anything. His parents didn't say anything. They don't have much to go off of other than two people went out on a road trip. One of them came back with the other person's van. Once they had the cards being used, things changed, but that didn't happen until later in time. And he wasn't charged in that till September 23rd. So between the time he got home at the beginning of September and September 23rd, in that 20 plus day period, they didn't have much to go on to believe that he had killed her. They didn't have her remains yet. Her remains were discovered on September 21st, which is why I think they put out the arrest warrant on September 23rd for the other charges. But they had her remains on September 21st. So anytime before her remains, they don't have a lot. And until they have a manner of death and a cause of death, it's really hard to name someone as a suspect. Also, suspects of crimes have rights. Jumping the gun on these things can cause more problems and can cause the investigation to be rushed or botched because time limitations start to, especially if they put out an arrest warrant, the timing of a criminal case starts ticking, and that can rush an investigation and cause mistakes. So once they identified her remains and released the cause of death, then they did 2 days later get the search or get the arrest warrant and seek to arrest him on the grand jury unauthorized devices, which could have been a holding charge. Yes, it's a valid charge. Yes, it seems that it was done based on the evidence presented, and that we've seen, or that we've seen reported. They could arrest him on that and hold him while they finish up the homicide investigation, and that's not a bad deal either. So Amy's asking, this is a great question. Amy's asking, wasn't stealing her van enough to arrest him? They were engaged. So without her reporting the van missing, which she probably didn't do because he killed her before he took the van, without her reporting the van missing, it's very hard for a prosecutor to look at that and say, I can prove this van is stolen. What you've got is a fiance driving somebody's van. You can't prove beyond a reasonable doubt that that van is stolen, because if he is arrested on that and he goes, she let me use it, you've got no charge, he's been arrested and he's out. So no, he couldn't be arrested on stealing the van because they didn't have enough evidence that he stole the van, because she never reported it missing. If she had reported it taken or missing, which we know in the circumstances now that that was never going to happen, because she was gone almost a month before well, not a month before, she was gone before he came home with the van. So Just Heart said, aiding and abetting a murder is a crime, even if it's their son. Aiding and abetting a murder is there a crime. There is no evidence that the Laundries aided and abetted in a killing. There is no indication that anyone was out in Wyoming other than Gabby and Brian. That doesn't mean that they might not have been accessories after the fact, helping him hide what he did or helping him get away. But quite a lot of evidence is needed for a criminal prosecution, and you need substantial evidence to prove that. They are not very easy cases to prove, unless you have adequate evidence. When you have adequate evidence, you can be like, okay, well, here's this. And I don't know if they will proceed to charge that. We don't know what the Laundries told Northport police. We don't know if they tried to obstruct the investigation. And we don't know if they helped Brian after the fact. They may have, they may not have. It would him just living there after telling him what they did be enough that it's aiding and abetting after the fact? That would be very, very, very difficult to legally prove in a way that would sustain being overturned on appeal with only those facts. So I don't like it either, but after the fact would be accessory after the fact. So I try to answer those questions because I understand the frustration. So, that's where that is. I'm going to get to some of the super chats. I don't like it either. Jennifer, thank you so much. Emily is gorgeous. And the Paw Nerds daily back. I mean, Fred definitely goes, he sits in the background. He cleans himself. He sits on his brother. He did all the things tonight. Jen Gerard, it's so good to see you. Oh, you guys, the lip gloss I used earlier is a Jen Gerard Cosmetics lip gloss. I call it the lightsaber lip gloss. She can't call it that because trademarks are a real thing. But this amazing lip gloss not only lights up, and I love it, it has a mirror so that you can see your lips when you are putting it on if you're not live streaming and looking at yourself in the camera. So I love it. The links are always down below. If you use our code LAWNERD at Gerard Cosmetics, you get a discount. I get money to buy more lipstick with, and it is all good. It's good to see you, Jen. I know you've been busy. She just launched a new product as well. Got the wine and bucati pasta. I said that totally wrong. Bucatini pasta. Hello from Omaha. Hello, that sounds delicious. I want a giant plate of pasta. Ashley Vincent, good to see you, friend. Catnip tip, new kids on the block featuring Rick Astley, Salt and Pepper, and Vogue. Bring back time, and it's fire. What? I need to go look. That sounds like fire. My oldest knows every word to Never Gonna Give You Up, and he kind of looks a little. Travis looks, I think, a little like Rick Astley, the hair, and it's hilarious. It's hilarious to me. Lynn said your authenticity inspires me. Thank you. You're welcome. Today I booked my next tattoo and got a new piercing. Yes. You make me brave enough to do it at 48 my way. Do 48 your way. We only get this body and we only get it for a little bit of time. Why not have fun? I mean, I'm living for these so much. Why not? Why not? It's our life. War Prime said, "Hi, is it just me or is the Russ lawsuit like an episode of American Greed? It's kind of a mess. I haven't seen American Greed, so I can't compare. I should. I'm very behind on my TV watching. To you and your iron bladder, Jay Thompson, thank you. It is a skill that I developed during prosecution because the prosecutor doesn't always get a potty break. It was very hard when I was pregnant, but it's very hard to interrupt the judge and the jury who are all there giving you their time to be like, Your Honor, prosecutor needs to go potty. So that is long court days. That is long court days. Emily, you are lovely. Point me at the people who say otherwise. Oh, I am not for everybody. I understand that. And that is okay because we just get to be here in our happy little corner of the internet and not worry about the others. But thank you. That's so Lacey. I love that. Confronted my parents about abuse recently and used facts, not fuckery. And two things can be true at once in my talk. Love your powerful fact phrases. That's so Lacey. I'm sure that was very difficult and took a lot of courage to do. And I'm glad you were able to speak your truth to your parents. I hope that you have the support that is helpful to you as you are going through this because we all deserve and need support. And I rely on my support system literally daily. Janice, thank you so much. Oh, you super chatted twice. Thank you. I love it when you're sassy. Preach it, Emily. Some cases we can pop off on. Sometimes it's just too serious to pop off, but sometimes you just got to pop off. Sometimes you got to just be like, little kitty cat said, Emily, it started snowing in Memphis at 5. Now it's almost 8, and we've already gotten a good 1.5 inches. Memphis may get to see snow like Nashville. Absolutely, you may. Congratulations on your March snow. I'm sure by now it's snowing. I can't see. It's pitch black outside my window, but I will go see after this and let you all know. Danielle, thank you for the super chat. I appreciate it. Do you guys love this new feature? I love that we can just stack the super chats and go through them. We need a DEFCON Brown for Baldwin's crap. I mean, the red, there's some fuckery. The DMs, the sharing that no. It feels to me like I have to have the last word. He's probably miserable to argue with. Like that I have to have the last word and I have to have the last word now. That's what it felt like to me. So Duty Ron. Hello, Duty Ron. First time viewer and love what you're doing. Jackie Vineyard sent me over. Glad I did. Well, fantastic. Glad you're here. Cheers and welcome. So thank you for that. Appreciate it. Thank you for the super sticker, SJ Fountains. Mama Trees said, love you and the Ponards. Me too. Fred is now well asleep. Like he's caused chaos. He's like, get in, Sparkle Tits. We've got chaos to spread. Or we've got fuckery to spread for Fred. Thank you for the super sticker. I appreciate it. Jesselyn said, but in the end, they didn't even protect him. I'm not sure what that is related to. But I'm going to go with, yep, it sounds like it. Gabby I'm going to do that wrong. Gabby Naru, I don't know that name. Fan. Awesome. Love, Control F all the way. You're funny. Saw your TED Talk. Thank you. Learned a lot. I thank you for that. I am very proud of my TED Talk. I like it quite a lot. And I hope it's not my last one. Aereo Scorpion, thank you so much. I vote for Lawnard Bar merch in the shop once you hit 200K. Rocks glasses. We could probably do glasses. I need to take a look, but we could probably do glasses. Thank you guys for all of your support. I appreciate it. We will do some kind of bar solution, I'm sure. I'm sure. And we will probably get to 200K. I don't know, maybe next week, we'll see. We'll just see what we think. What do you think is going to happen with Alec Baldwin? I think these lawsuits are going to go on for quite a long time. I haven't seen the contract, so I don't know about the indemnity, but it's an interesting question. That means even if he's found responsible, so he could be found liable, but if he has indemnity, they have to pay. I don't think I don't know. I'm sure that Baldwin in his own way is very traumatized about all of this happening. I'm sure that he is. I don't think you can I don't think he meant to do this. I think he was manipulating the gun. I don't think he ever imagined that this could happen. I truly don't think he meant to do this. But that doesn't mean he's not somehow liable and responsible for the negligence of pointing it at someone. It will be very interesting to see what the investigation turns up. I know that the weapon in question is with the FBI. Santa Fe is going very slow with this. I think it's okay to be slow and thorough. It is not going to change the course of things. A rushed investigation can be detrimental. No one is in custody. No one needs to be in custody at this point. So I don't think there's any harm for Santa Fe taking their time, dotting their I's and crossing their T's. They know no matter what they do, people are going to be pissed. They arrest people, people are going to be pissed. They don't arrest people, people are going to be pissed. So they know that's coming. So they know. So we'll see. Let's see. Growing Up said, new subscriber here. Will you comment on the Sherry Papini? I think I'm pronouncing that right. Case. Have you already? I have not already. It was intended for this evening, and then things happened today that we've already been covering. So I will cover it. I don't know if I'm going to cover it in a podcast episode. It got bumped. Things do sometimes get bumped when new things come in, but I intend to. So just not yet. So did you see Bertolino's statement to WFLA today? He sent a text to JB. He always sends a text to JB. Stephen Bertolino is an interesting dude. I'm not surprised. No, I didn't. Let me go look at JB's Twitter and see if he put it on Twitter. Let me go look. I'm curious. Let's see if we find it now. We'll go see if we can find it now. Let's see. He really likes being able to just text at people. But I think that's a problem for Stephen Bertolino too. I think when he just pops off and texts at people, he gets himself in trouble because he doesn't this is too fast of a response. Lawyers should take time to craft statements and not just be like, hey, this. Not to say that he didn't, saying that it's my perception that he does not. Let's see. Live on WFLA now, we're breaking down the lawsuit alleging Brian Laundrie told his parents of Gabby's murder. Yeah, we did that too. Stream soon. There's a lot more in this lawsuit against the parents that we were combing through now. It's a pretty quick lawsuit to come through. I'll just say that. But I don't see, let's see. Gabby Petito's mother tells me no comment as to, let me just pull up the Twitter so y'all can see it. Let's just do this. We should just do this together. Yes, Emily, that would be better. Gabby Petito's mother tells me no comment as the claim speaks for itself. I think that's fair in response to the request for comment. Let's see. Moments ago, Laundrie family attorney texted me no comment. Did he comment more? He texted no comment. Did he comment more? Let me know, chat, if he commented more. Oh, 13. Look, he just tweeted it. Thanks, JB. I feel like we like your coverage. Hey, JB, we appreciate this. During today's live stream on Gabby Petito's parents suing Brian Laundrie's parents, Laundrie attorney Stephen Bertolino texted me the following statement, which I read live. The statement came an hour after he first texted me, no comment. That tracks. As I have mentioned over the last several months, the Laundries have not publicly commented at my direction, which is their right under the law. Yeah. Assuming everything the Petitos allege in their lawsuit is true, which we deny, this lawsuit does not change the fact that the Laundries had no obligation to speak to law enforcement. That's true. That's not what the lawsuit alleges, though, but that's true. Or any third party, including the Petito family. This fundamental legal principle renders the Petitos' claims to be baseless under the law. And that will be the interesting thing is on IIED, it's not... It will be interesting how that defense comes up because I don't think it's fatal to the claims on their face. I think it's a defense. I need to look at it more, but I think it's a defense because, again, the IIED cause of action is the outrageous conduct. Let me just pull it up again. Where did it go? Where did my IIED notes go? So I can pull my elements real quick. It was right here. I had it all organized and then I lost it. Nope, I don't know where it went. That's annoying. Mm, Nope. I don't know why I can't find it. Ah, there it is. Outrageous conduct, reckless disregard of the probability of causing emotional distress, actual suffering, proximate causation of the emotional distress. I think they're going to attack the outrageous conduct, and I will need to look at some case law on that because they might have a defense, but I don't think it renders the complaint fatal on its face. I don't think they get like a there's no way this claim can ever survive. They might make that motion and they might submit case law on that, and I'll be interested to see how it litigates. Um, but on IIED, it's not saying they breached a duty. It's not negligence. It's not negligent infliction of emotional distress. They're not saying you had a duty and you didn't do it. They're saying that you recklessly disregarded the emotional distress that you were causing me and the conduct was outrageous. And I think the defense attacks the conduct being outrageous, saying this conduct can't be outrageous. It was at the advice of counsel, so you can't prove that element. But I don't think it's fatal on its face. But we'll see how it litigates for sure. For the Michael T. Pines filing, well, thank you. We haven't looked at Michael T. Pines. We haven't. We've definitely looked at filings. We've not looked at that one. Question. Hi from Fayetteville, Arkansas. Hi, Fayetteville, Arkansas. From Docket. I'm loving the Paw Nerds. When you come for the Duggar trial, would you consider a meet and greet? I'm going to talk about that. I'm a newbie law bird, not law. Did you see it go? I'm a newbie law nerd. Thank you for your content. You're welcome. Yes. And yes, I will let y'all that are local in Arkansas know we will do something. We will do something informal and for fun. We will do something. When is the next Jen Shaw update or court hearing? Next update should be soon. Maybe this week's podcast. I'm still grappling. I'm grappling between Amanda Bynes and Jen Shaw. Like I haven't landed on one because there are updates there on the motions to quash. So if I don't do it, I just talked about Shaw on Tuesday. So Shaw updates were on Tuesday, and there will be more coming soon because the other defendants have pled, but they haven't been sentenced. So Tyler, would you ever consider doing a collab with Attorney Tom? I have streamed with Attorney Tom. I would definitely do a collab with Attorney Tom. I like Attorney Tom. I've actually met Attorney Tom in person. Of all the law tubers, Attorney Tom and I have spent time together in person. And he's a delightful and very knowledgeable attorney. He does a lot of personal injury, and he's doing stuff with the Astroworld plaintiffs. So yes, I would absolutely consider it. As long as he didn't try to make me like react to Reddit. I'm not doing that. I want to talk to him about like the Jeff Wittick and David Dobrik stuff, but I know he did a video on that already. Because it seems like Wittick is saying he might actually now sue on David Dobrik. Or sue David Dobrik, not on David Dobrik. That was an awkward way to say that. Question, favorite Dave Matthews song? It's hard because I have different songs for different reasons and for different moods. So I have a lot of different favorite songs. My ultimate favorite song is Beach Ball, which is this tattoo. But Where Are You Going is one of my other favorite songs because it was our wedding song. Fun fact about Emily and Dr. B, our wedding song negotiations. This was way back when we got married. 2002. Our wedding song negotiations broke down between Where Are You Going and Metallica's Nothing Else Matters. And that tells you everything you need to know about our taste in music. We love The Offspring. We love punk. We have tickets to go see Motley Crue. Like, we love a wide variety of music, but Dave Matthews is my heart. I might have tried to name one of my children David Matthew Baker. His initials would have been DMB, and my husband vetoed so fucking hard. So hard. Carla said, do you agree with the judge's sentence in the Smollett case? I was surprised. Here's where I went with the Smollett case. Here's my train of thought, because it's not an easy answer because lawyer. I started the stream with Nate and I started my prediction saying, I think he might get custody time, but I think he will get a heap of community service, restitution and fines and a bunch of probation. That's where I was at. That's where I thought. My chair has like scooched. That's where I thought we were at. Then his attorneys kept talking. And the more he talked, the more the attorneys talked, the more and more and more I got the idea. Um, the more I got the idea that he was accepting zero responsibility. He didn't appreciate the seriousness of what he had done, and he probably needed some custody time. Now, for someone who has grown up seemingly with a loving family, clearly a loving grandmother, a family that was very community oriented, did community service. He had a job when he was 16. He's worked as an actor. He has been famous. He has been wealthy. 5 months in custody is probably going to be enough to leave a substantial impact on his perception of this case. He is not truly, I didn't think he was an actual danger to the community until his lawyers kept talking. And I was like, this guy doesn't see what he did was wrong. And that's a problem. So his lawyers talked me into the fact that he needed some custody time. If he had said, I I I don't know what happened. I know what I did. I don't know how I let it get so far. I am ashamed. I have embarrassed. I have ruined my life. I have denigrated the city of Chicago. I have embarrassed those who supported me, including the media. I have embarrassed those who stood up for me. I have brought shame upon myself. Oh, the judge actually said, your name is now synonymous with lying. And that was very interesting to me that the judge also called him a charlatan parading as a victim. The judge had no lack of words for Jussie Smollett. If you watch anything from that sentencing, go watch what the judge had to say. He sat through the whole trial. He had words. He also said Jussie lied to the jury. Whether he'll be prosecuted for perjury, we will see. So, I do agree with the sentence. I don't think he needed more time. I don't think he is going to harm anyone else. I think this crime, yes, there is financial harm to the city of Chicago and trust in the system. Yes, there is harm in that, it is already hard for victims of crime to be believed. But I don't think he is a danger in the way that the criminal justice system normally looks at and evaluates whether people are dangerous. I don't think he's going to harm someone. I don't think he's going to steal from them. I don't think he will ever do anything like this again, but I also don't think he takes this seriously or sees what he did was wrong. I don't think he thinks he did anything wrong. And he said that as he was walking out. He's like, I did not do this. Okay, bro. Okay. For introducing me to the joy of peanut butter flavored whiskey. Cheers. We love a flavored whiskey. Loves it. My Irish husband asked me, do you like Jameson whiskey? Yes, I do like Jameson whiskey. I do. Jameson was the first whiskey. I digress. Jameson was the first whiskey because there was an Irish bar down the street from the courthouse I used to work at. So if we went out to go drink and hang out or go drink and then walk around the Pike in Long Beach and play Pokemon, there was an Irish pub there that I absolutely loved. And it felt only appropriate to drink whiskey, though sometimes a dirty martini is all that will do. And now the Real Housewives of Orange County is trying to ruin it for me because now everybody's like, my perception is that people will be like, oh, you're ordering a filthy martini. Is that because they're Real Housewives? It's like, but I have been ordering a filthy martini since I was like, I don't know, 27 years old, because that's the age where I got the saltiest. My career by then had kind of taken a little of the shine off and I got super salty. And I was like, fuck it, make the drink as salty as I am at the moment. Just dirty it up. To the point where my regular dinner group, my group of girlfriends that would go out to dinner like once a month, I would order dirty martinis. They actually changed my name in their phone to Dirty. Like it was Dirty Baker. Cherish said our wedding song was supposed to be Nothing Else Matters as well, also 2002, but ended up eloping. Cheers. I am glad we didn't go out. We didn't go with Nothing Else Matters, only because our first dance would have lasted like 6 minutes. And that is a very long first dance. So very long, long. Amanda has been posting it up on the Instagram. She's been posting it up. Kate, are you gonna update on the Girardi law? Okay. Yes, and it is 517 million now in estimated debts to the creditors in the bankruptcy. So not all suits. Yes, I will update. It was supposed to happen tonight. There was just no time. There was just no time. Have you heard of Bollywood? Oh, wait. I read that as Bollywood. Bloodywood. They're an Indian folk metal band. Yes, I'm for real, and I'm currently obsessed. That sounds fucking amazing. No, I haven't. I will check that out. I love a crossover. I like punk rock moose on the YouTubes. I love a good crossover genre. I love making like Let It Go heavy metal. It's literally all I watch on TikTok. I love it so much. Vitamin String Quartet is one of my favorite. They have an entire Offspring album of Offspring made into violin or made into string quartet music. Favorite. I will absolutely look at that. That is the best tip ever. Thank you so much, Jenna. I'm stoked. I'm stoked. Mick Travel Chica said experienced lawyers that practice civil law can easily get credentials to work in other states. Yes, and often do so. Yes. Yes, that happens. Pro Hoc Vice admin status is not very hard, though we do need to look into the Pro Hoc Vice of the runaway lawyer and his associate. We need to get back to that because there's things. Question, did we ever find out what happened with the sentencing or lack thereof of Stu Chains? I think it might be I wonder if it's under seal, but I don't know. Oh, we were also supposed to talk about Omni and a Hellcat tonight. Damn it. Tuesday. We're going to have to talk about it Tuesday. We're going to have to talk about it Tuesday. Other question from Missy. Hello, Missy. Can Gabby's parents make them sit for depositions? If the case gets that far, it doesn't mean they won't try to plead the fifth. But if the case gets that far, they can. Question, do you have dimples? Not really. My face varies in weight. When I vary in weight, my face varies in expression. But no, not really. Dirty martinis have me feeling much love for my fellow Leonards. I love a dirty martini. You've probably already heard me say that. Let's see. T. Craig said, I understand the Smollett time, but I wish Karens who falsely accuse brown folks of stuff got time as well. I don't disagree with you at all. I think falsely accusing people of a crime is something people should go to jail over because it's tremendously detrimental. It puts people hugely at risk. And don't be a fucking liar. Like, don't the audacity and the entitlement and the privilege of lying about somebody. And we will go over, I think Sherry Rapini will definitely see jail time, but we will go over it for sure. But yes, people who lie and make false police reports, makes false statements to the police, falsely report people should have consequences larger than being like blasted on Twitter. I agree with you. Abby has Chan said, oh Lordy, you're still going. You make it sound like it's a bad thing. Oh my God, it's been 2 hours and 47 minutes. It's a bad thing for the mods. Thank you, mods. Mother Oats said, question, how can we make sure the FBI does their job in investigating Lou Taylor? I don't know how to make the FBI do anything. Hopefully they are. Something doesn't seem right. Why isn't anybody in jail? I don't know. Investigations do take a long time. They do go on behind the scenes. There's a lot there. There's a lot there that they can look into, but we won't know. If they're investigating, we won't know. I will say, I think that the best option for this is Rosengart. I think Rosengart is the best attorney Rosengart or other of his ilk, former prosecutors, former federal prosecutors. Prosecutors know people. I'm just saying. He is going to know people. I think he is the best attorney for what he is doing. And I hope that is good. Let's see. I'm going to do like 3 more and then I've got to go. Okay. Let's see. Coffee Buzz, my kiddo asked I not play Pantera at pickups and drop-offs. Why would any child ever ask such a thing? That's an unreasonable request. Tell them Emily has overruled them. Pantera rocks. And you should be able to listen to your music. I love Pantera. Let's see. Oh, I need to do court of public opinion. I do. I need to do court of public opinion. I said we were gonna do court of public opinion, and we're gonna do it. I totally forgot. It happens in real time. Whiskey does not help. It does not help at all. But we should do that. We should do COPO. Okay, hopefully you all could hear that from the beginning. I was gonna do a different COPO. It's gonna get saved till next week. Katya, you know what I mean. It's from Coffee Talk this morning. I was gonna do a different COPO. I totally was. But then we started talking about the ridiculous voir dire, and ridiculous. I have never seen, hey George. What up, buddy? That's George. George doesn't have any white on him. He's just pure ginger snap colored. Until the judge started talking about the fact that Smollett's lawyers wanted to ask people Batman versus Superman. I have never seen an attorney try to ask those types of questions in voir dire. I don't even know what they were thinking. I don't know why they were thinking it. I don't know what they were trying to get at. I am confused. Here is the point. For those of you that are new, court of public opinion is sometimes on a hiatus. It just depends. Court of public opinion is a way that we get to explore not only critical thinking, but argument skills, where we are arguing back and forth over things that are inconsequential. Because how do you really determine what is best? How do you determine if cereal should be eaten with the milk in the bowl first or the milk in the bowl second, other than run it through the court of public opinion? And what the court of public opinion says goes. It's just, those are the facts. That's how that works. So I feel like we just have to get to court of public opinion, Batman versus Superman. Now, I don't know how we decide this because the two are so different. First of all, Batman is not from another planet. He doesn't have innate supernatural abilities, and maybe that's what makes him rock the most. He's just super fucking rich, and he can do whatever he wants. So he makes amazing toys. Superman is from another planet trying to do good by humanity. Maybe if he got Lois Lane pregnant and she got a suntan, the kid would kick through her stomach. Yes, I watch a lot of Kevin Smith movies and I still love them. So maybe there's like a downside to Superman. He was able to fool everyone with a pair of glasses. I don't know if that means that people are really not very observant or if he was just really good. I don't know. So we're going to put up a poll. And we're going to do Batman versus Superman. And then I will share it on social media with why, and we will see. Normally, we refine COPO here, and then we take it to the interwebs. This is my time to say, if you have not subscribed, please do that. If you do not follow me on the Twitters or the Instagrams, occasionally the TikToks, no, that's not true. I love TikTok. I want to be able to make content like the content creators that I love on TikTok. And that's like not what I do on TikTok. I do the legal things on TikTok. But if I ever start a second TikTok, it might just be for glorious like home cleaning. Or like Jackie Ina, who I love and is an amazing creator here on this platform, but also on TikTok and Instagram, has like a lavish site where she does like the most beautiful self-care, home care. That is what I love TikTok for, and music mashups. People just being like, here's how I organize everything in my fridge. I love it. That is not the kind of content I make. I don't think I have time to make that kind of content. But if you ever see a random video of me with like my fridge going, just know I've decided to just decide I'm a organizing influencer. I don't know, that I've decided that that's what's happening at the moment, but I do enjoy TikTok. So sometimes I'm there too, at the Emily D. Baker. So with that, you guys are like, I voted Superman, but obviously Batman movies hugely beat out Superman. I don't think we're talking about the movies. I think we are talking about the characters, because the Batman movies are obviously superior, but that's not Superman's fault. Like Smallville was good. That's not Superman's fault that the Batman movies are better. So I think we're still refining. I think I need to specify when we take it to the socials that we are talking about the character and not the universe, because the universe is very different. So, um, JC, I picked Batman for the poll, but my real answer is Loki. I'll never be convinced he's not a real superhero. I mean, he is kind of a god of mischief, right? Um, so let's see. Julie Newmar as Catwoman was the best. Pam Nora's fun story. I know Julie Newmar. She is a lovely, lovely human. Let's see. This is the white wine talking about Chris Reeves was so hot, even as an 8-year-old Superman all the way. I don't disagree that Chris Reeves is hot. That is fair. You guys are like, Superman's able to fly. Superman's able to fly, but Batman has really fucking cool cars. Batman because he's hotter. I mean, that's fair. I choose Iron Man. Tamara, you're missing the point. You don't get to pick Iron Man today. You're like, if I have to pick a rich dude with cool toys, I pick Iron Man as a rich dude with cool toys over Batman. We can debate Iron Man, Batman later if we're debating real toys. We can do that another time. We can. Absolutely. I also have to say I loved Halle Berry as Catwoman. Like there's a scene where she comes out of the water in a bikini with the water and I'm just like, "Damn, woman. Damn, like this is like a Bond film." Hopefully that wasn't an actual she was in a Bond film too. Am I conflating the two? I might be. Me after whiskey. Batman has the best villains. That's a solid argument. I prefer a man with some darkness, so Batman, that's also Superman does come across as a little bit of a Boy Scout. That's a valid criticism. That scene was in a Bond film. Look, sometimes my brain conflates things together. So that was the Bond film. Y'all are like, right. Perfect. Perfect. Wrong movie. That was Bond. Thanks all. Superman is about goodness and service. Yes. And Batman's like darkness. No parents. Will Arnett is still maybe one of my favorite Batmans ever. And he was Lego Batman. I love it. Iron Man versus Batman, absolutely no contest. Iron Man every time. We might have to do that another time. We did a COPO ages ago amongst the various Batmans, including Lego Batman. So, Jensen Ackles might kick the Will Arnett for me, but I don't know. I haven't seen it. I don't think it's out yet, but I might be behind. Emily, next week we should do villain versus villain, like Joker versus but there's so many villains within the Batman universe. We would have to narrow down best villains and like it would need to be a March Madness. Last year for March Madness, we did Apology Tour. Maybe we'll have to do something for March Madness this year, but we would have to do there would have to be brackets of villains because the Batman universe has so many villains. There are so many villains in the Marvel universe. There are lots of villains. So it just depends. I'm afraid, or Lego Batman because Mariah Carey is mayor of New York. That's a very, very fair. I love Lego Batman so much. I hear my door. Why do I hear my door? I think my kiddos are looking for me because, oh my God, it's been almost 3 hours. Okay. We need to end the poll and say good night because it is just, I heard my kids. I was like, oh, Spider-Man does have a whole metaverse. Look, I love the Spider-Man movies. Oh, that's the other one I was supposed to do. Who is the best Spider-Man actor? Because I told my kid I was going to COPO it because my kid's homeroom class has been fighting over who is the best Spider-Man. And so I told him I was going to COPO it to see if the law nerds and his homeroom class were coming up with the same results as who was the best Spider-Man. So make a note. We'll do that next week. We'll do who the best Spider-Man actor is next week. And then we might get back to it. All right. Batman 61, Spider-Man or Superman 38%. Good poll, y'all. So we will have to come back to that. You guys, thank you for the super chats. Have you tried the pink coconut vodka? It's like drinking a Mounds bar. What? I have not, Janice. But now I have a new mission. Probably not for tomorrow because there's going to be snow, but I will go find some pink coconut vodka and drink that. It sounds delicious, and I love a Mounds bar. Sanchel said, I appreciate your streams. Always wanted to be a law nerd. You are a law nerd. Thank you for being here, and I appreciate that. I enjoy these streams too. River said, there are so many complaints about cancel culture, but it seems to me like it's a desperate substitute for the courts failing to the purveyors of justice. I am not quite sure I understand adequately. That might be the whiskey. But there are a lot of complaints about cancel culture. The courts work very, very slow. Twitter and society work very, very fast. The courts are intended to work slow. The courts cannot keep up with people's feels, really. And it is sometimes hard. Not the standard of proof in the court of public opinion and the standard of proof in a court of law are very different. And I think it's something not everyone understands. And it's what we really like to do here as law nerds is be able to acknowledge both. I think not enough lawyers acknowledge both, especially the ones who see themselves as very serious. I'm a very serious lawyer. I do very serious things. I quote Supreme Court cases by name, citation, year, and presiding justice. There are very serious lawyers who take themselves very seriously, who don't acknowledge that there are two sides of these things. There is morality and legality. And there's a lot of lawyers who are like, legal, illegal. Legal, illegal. It's legal, it's fine. Like, don't talk to me about morality. And then there's lawyers who don't want to talk about the different standards and how people feel in the general public and perceive things on social media is different than the standards of proof. And that is something that we do here. So what we do here is talk about the differences. It was hard on Tuesday with Meghan Markle. People had a whole lot of feelings, but I'm like, just because some people hate Meghan Markle doesn't mean that she defamed anybody. Doesn't mean she didn't. We got to talk about the differences. I'm going to have to go back through that case. I had no idea that the Oprah interview was yeeted. Like, now I need to rabbit hole, but I don't have time because I want to rabbit hole Johnny Depp. So I might have to put a cork in the Markle Royals rabbit hole, even though that popped off again today with Prince Harry being like, I'm not going to a funeral for his grandfather, which actually makes me sad for like the family drama. But I need to go down. I have a Johnny Depp rabbit hole I need to get down. Like, we need to do that. We need to do that. Y'all, I appreciate you. Law nerds, thank you so much. It's time to go. We're now well over 3 hours. It's not going to be 3 hours tonight. Also me. Here we are. Here we are again. Elizabeth, that's so kind. It's incredibly kind. And thank you very much. You guys, thank you for being law nerds. Thank you for being here. I'm going to run the outro. We are out of water. We are out of whiskey. Emily, no, you're not. There's a bottle on your desk. Shh. We are out of water. We are out of whiskey. Thank you for being a law nerd. Don't forget to do the likey, subscribey things. Thank you for being here. I appreciate all of you. I will see you around social media and on the interwebs and be back for Tuesday for coffee and cursey words. Connect with me everywhere. I'm at the Emily D. Baker. If you guys want to join the text, just text Emily.com. If you want to join the channel, lawnerdsunite.com. Happy to have you. Support what we do here on the YouTube.